For Tuesday, July 19th, 2022 to order. Deborah, if you could establish quorum, please.
We're called to order. I just need to mark you all as here. Lane Frazier.
Here, aye.
Stacy Hall.
Aye.
Jeanette Hall. Hart.
Aye.
Sherry Noyce.
Aye.
Ed Rice.
Here.
Cody Wells.
Aye, here.
Sherry Wright. Here. Thank you.
Thank you. Please stand for the pledge
This
of
will not
allegiance.
take my name.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Can I get a motion to set the agenda?
Make a motion to set the agenda.
Second.
Is that Stacy? Any discussion on that?
Well, that has to be the word that.
I think so. He probably didn't.
Yeah, maybe.
Need a second to set the agenda. There you go. All right.
Quiet.
Air conditions being way too loud.
Do you see the voting pop up on your screen?
Yeah.
No.
I have to open it, I guess.
Okay, now I have it now.
So. This is all up.
Yay. I don't. I'll sit, hit save and I'll tell you what's right. Okay, sorry.
Now, Deborah, is this where we just have you ask us to cast our vote?
Yeah.
Instead of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have the board cast their vote. All votes are in. Correct, everyone? We voted electronically for the first time. We did something.
Progress is happening.
Thank you for your patience.
Yes. Okay, moving on to section 3. Can I get a motion for the approval of minutes for June 21st of 22?
I make a motion that we accept and approve the minutes for the June 21st, 2022 board meeting.
Second.
Jeanette,
Second.
Jeanette. One second. Jeanette seconded. Did you second it too?
Sherry did too. Whoever she got.
Would you please cast your vote?
I don't have it. Oh, here we go.
Except for Miss Wright, you're gonna have to give.
I'm an I. I've read them. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, item B, approval of the minutes of June 21st, 2022 executive meeting.
I'll make the motion.
Second it.
Please cast your vote. Right.
My old
Are you a yes or a?
No, it's-
Oh, yes. I thought you told me I was in. All right.
Thank you.
No. Good.
Item 3, the approval of minutes for the June 29th, 2022 meeting.
Make that motion. I'll make the motion.
Oh, Tom did. Okay. I think the air conditioner is way too loud and people can't hear, but
I have to yell for you.
Ed motions, and do we have a second? Doug?
Second, I'll second.
Wait. Did Ed say the first?
Ed made the motion.
See if you can turn that on low.
Please cast your vote.
I don't think we can live with it off.
Ms. Wright?
Aye.
Thank you.
There we go. That's better.
Thank you.
We'll see how long that.
Yeah, we'll see how, yeah.
That's we were stressed.
Makes the meeting go
All
faster.
right.
Well,
Well, comes over there.
Okay, moving on to section 4 for reports. Item A, celebration reports. Do we have any celebration reports?
I met with PV parents today, Tom and Kyle and I did, and they're really anxious to get started. So it was a good meeting.
Good meeting.
Okay.
To get started, pushing toward charter.
We're chartered.
Yeah, they were fact finding and we gave information, telephone numbers and information. The 1 hour meeting with the truth.
Okay. And then just uneventful for a little bit. Any other celebration reports that anybody can?
I received a really nice thank you card from Avery, and she said thank you for allowing her to be on the board and for listening to her. She was very happy with the way she was treated there.
Oh, well, that was nice. We're glad to have her.
Yeah, I'm forgetting another one that good.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's move on to section B, the superintendent's report with introduction of the MCHS principal. Mr. Burris.
I would like to introduce Dr. Thomas Graves. Please stand up. Since you're the only one in the room. I've been over at the high school weed whacking and making the place nicer looking, and so I'm real anxious to have him, and thank you for being here, sir. Thank you.
I've had some emails from teachers asking if it's true that we have a new principal. Yes.
You need to just order taller on your names.
No, you're a,
Just a quick introduction.
yeah, go ahead.
Perfect, yeah, that'd be great.
Listen, everything you've heard is true. I am hard driving. You know, the beauty is that everyone here at the central office, your superintendent, have the guts to hire somebody that they know will get the job done and they who know doesn't have to have the job. You know, I wish I could wave my magic wand and let superintendents, school administrators, central office administrators have a long enough contract where they can do what's best for kids and not have to worry about the politics of whether they're going to keep their job. Beauty of me, you get what you get because I get the house tomorrow. Here's what you're going to hear. Discipline, responsibility, good old-fashioned hard work, and no excuses in everything we do. That's for my staff, that's from me, that's from our students, and that's what I'll expect from the parents. One thing they say about leadership all the time, and you all know this because you're board members. You know, people ask me all the time, people that you've worked with, places you've been a superintendent before, what are they going to say about you? And I always say the same thing. And so we ask. Some people think I sit at the right hand of God. A lot of people think I'm the devil's stepchild. It depends on whether you had to hold them or their friend or their child or anyone else accountable. You're going to hear me say this over and over again. And I'm welcome. The superintendent's got my personal email number or personal cell phone number. Anybody in this town can have it. You can call or text me anytime. Just tell me who you are. Otherwise, I'll have no clue. If you have a question or concern, because you know, as board members, they're not going to come to the superintendent. And they're definitely not going to come to me. They're going to go to you. So just ask. Here's what I always tell you, the truth. May not be what you want to hear, but I always tell you the truth. And if I don't know, which is 90% of the time, superintendent, same way. Somebody calls and complains, you say something, they don't even know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. But here's what I will do. I'll find out and I'll tell you the truth every time. You have one of the most gorgeous facilities I've ever been in my life. And I've been all over the country. You can read my resume, New Mexico, Alabama, Georgia, everywhere. And I do school turnarounds as a superintendent and also for districts and as individual schools. Got a wonderful wife of 37 years, got 2 boys. One's a U.S. Air Force Academy grad. He's an aerospace engineer and a test pilot in the Air Force. Don't ask me how, because he's a lot smarter than I am. My other son's a coach at Syracuse University. He ran track and cross country for my college roommate at Auburn, where I went. I was an All-American. I even qualified for the 1980 Olympic trials. And guess why we didn't go? If you can remember back. Because Afghanistan, here we are still playing that game. You have potential with your facility and with the quality staff members you have in the central office to have one of the best performing high schools in the state in short order. Not 2 years from now, not 3 years from now, right away. Give me your support. Give me some time, because you know one of the things we do in education all the time, every new program we start, we only do it for a year or two. We never know really it works. Somebody just complains about it. We do another one. Give you an example, reading. Those of you who had kids, you know reading's not that tough. Vocabulary, a book, pictures, consistency. Kids magically learn how to read whether they have a disability or not. My God, we spend millions of dollars on reading programs and we change it every 2 years. Math is still 1 + 1 = 2. We spend millions of dollars on new math programs because our kids can't do math. Here's what I can guarantee you, or get rid of me. Here's what I can guarantee you. Our focus, not just mine, but the district and the staff, discipline, responsibility, hard work, no excuses. In everything we do. But you're going to hear me say this over and over again, something called compassionate accountability. Tardiness. And then I'm going to quit talking. There'll be all kinds of things you'll hear. Text me, call me, come by the school. I welcome you to come by the school. Anytime, sit in the class, visit me anytime. But I want to give you one example of how I operate. The number 1 reason people lose their jobs. Anybody care to tell me what that is?
Absenteeism.
Well, that's one, but that's not number 1. What's number 1? Tardiness. Number 1. And yet at the high school level, we're getting ready to turn kids into the real world, either for work or going on to improve their career through college or technical school. And we do a terrible job. Not just here, everywhere. But that's going to change. So I'm going to give you that example so you know how I operate, because you need to understand me so you can, so we can communicate more together. I played baseball. Everyone in this room, whether you played it or not, big baseball fan, and everyone knows 3 strikes and what? So here's my compassionate accountability works. Students will be on time for class all the time in high school. In the morning, between classes, after lunch, so on and so forth. That's how I play. I take it out of the teacher's hands. And here's why. They're inconsistent. We hear it all the time. You know, Miss Jones is loosey-goosey. She lets everybody walk in wherever they want. Mr. Johnson is a toe of the hunt. He hammers them every time. So here's how we're going to do it. Number 1 is going to be in the handbook. Number 2, I, as the principal, am going to meet with every class and every student, myself and my assistant principals, and they will hear what you're going to hear, along with a lot of other, but at least with the targets. So you're going to know they're going to sign, they're going to have access to a hard copy yearbook if they want, because I don't really like killing trees. I mean, it's on the website. It'll be updated. So they got it. But if they need it, I'll provide it, parents as well. So I want you to know that. But tardiness will work like this. If you're late, everything comes to the office. Teachers are going to teach, they're going to be on task, right from bell to bell. Kids will come to the office, we'll talk to them about why it's important to be on time. We'll ask them every time, is there anything we can do to help you be on time? You know, you broke your leg, you have a tire flat, your mom got sick, you had to go to the hospital. Those are called excuse targets. No problem with that. But I will tell you this, I've been in education over 30-something years, so I have a tendency to be sarcastic. I can tell you right now, 99.9% or more of tardies is because of unexcused, just late. Okay, so my attendance secretary will see them, we'll give them the dog and pony show, we'll talk to them about, hey, number 1 reason people lose their jobs, we want to help you. Is there anything we can do to help you be on time? 99% of the time they're going to say no. But if there is a reason, we're going to handle it. If there's not, strike one. Documented, consistent for everyone, whether you're poor, whether you're rich, whether you're a board chair's child, whether you're a custodian's child. Incredibly consistent, because we're gonna do it from the central office. I don't have to have all the other people involved. Strike two, you're late again. They see me. And I give them the same dog information. And I tell them, is there anything I can do to help you get here on time? Everybody's got issues. You know, I'll help. 99% of the time, no, I'll be on time next time. I said, make sure, because the caveat that I add is if you're not on time again and it's unexcused, you and your parents are gonna meet with me at 6 a.m. I call it 6 a.m. school improvement detail. I'm gonna show you my compassion and accountability so you know how I am. The reason I do 6 a.m. school improvement detail for tardiness and a lot of other things is because I don't like to suspend students. I don't like to expel students. It's the worst thing you can do for them. But I'm gonna hold them accountable in a compassionate way. So here's the example. I'm gonna get the parent and the child to get some skin in the game. 6 a.m. is effective because it hurts. You gotta get up early, you gotta come in, but it gives me a chance to meet the parent, talk to the student, say, hey, we're here, this is not a big deal. They're gonna be able to read, do academic work, help our custodial staff, help our lunchroom staff, build character, and go to school. No detentions, no suspensions, none of this. Isn't that wonderful? A compassionate, accountable person. Here's the extent I go, and you can know that I do this every time. So when a parent calls you and says, he's the devil's stepchild and he doesn't work with us, here's the extent I go. I don't advertise this. 6 a.m. school improvement is so effective because it's 6 a.m. Some people gotta go to work at 4 a.m. They can't get their kid there at 6 a.m. So being the nice guy I am, I'll say, hey, see you after school. Same kind of thing. Or we can't come after school, we're going skiing. See you Friday night. We can't do that because we're still gonna be on vacation. I'll see you Saturday morning. Well, we'll still be on vacation. I'll see you Sunday morning. We'll still be on vacation. Well, then you let me know when you can be here so that we can talk and I can do it. So that's the extent I go. But when you're incredibly consistent with kids and teachers, you'd be amazed at how they rise to the level of expectation. And I'm telling you, we're going to be teaching bell to bell. We're hard driving. We're compassionate. We're going to do everything we can to help kids. But here's what we're not going to do. We're not going to give away diplomas. We're not going to give grades. We're going to support students and they're going to earn those things. Because that's what it takes to be the best. Okay?
Woohoo! Yeah.
Anyway, here's another thing you'll hear.
Rock and roll.
Superintendent, it's completely your call, but here's my recommendation to you as far as open campus goes. And I'm just gonna hit it because I think it's a major liability. Open campus with freshmen and sophomores going out, doing their thing is an incredible liability. So my recommendation would be freshmen and sophomores stay on campus. We got great food, we got great cafeteria, we got umbrellas, we got inside, we got outside. Seniors, because I'm a good guy, deserve to be treated like adults. So here's the, and then I'll walk. They'll be treated like adults if they make C's or better. They don't have major discipline problems. They'll get a lunch pass and they'll have open campus. Because that's what's right for seniors. But they got to earn it. It's a privilege. Not a right. I think that will help you liability-wise. You make me feel more comfortable. I think it'll set the expectation for kids. And I just want you to know that that's my recommendation. But not now. That's really kind of a nutshell of what I'm about. You've heard my background. Everything they say, they'll say, that guy's crazy, he's all get out. You know what? They're right. But here's what I'm going to say. Crazy like a fox. I guarantee in the short order, we will have kids to class on time. They won't use inappropriate language in school because I don't tolerate that. I don't suspend in school or out of school. I don't make recommendations for expulsion. I've been in education so long, I can always find a way for a child to be successful. However, I will always protect the right of a teacher and a student to get a quality education to do instruction at your school, as long as I'm here. Because that's their right as well. know how to dot my i's, cross my t's. Superintendent, you'll know this, but the bottom line is your kids will rise, your community will rise to my expectation. I'm super proud to be here. I have never been in a school that nice. So there's no excuse. There's no excuse. And our test scores are not good. You know that. I don't have to tell you that. Our behavior is not good, but it's going to get good. You just understand that I'm going to do everything I can for kids and parents, but I am not going to back off compassion. By the way, I'm the one there at 6 a.m. before 6 a.m. every time. And I'm the one there Saturday or Friday or whatever it takes for the kid to be successful. You will be amazed at how kids will. But understand, they're going to be calling you. They're going to be telling you I'm the devil's stepchild. Trust me, text me, call me, ask me. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you the truth. I think you'll love it. I think the kids will too. You and they will be proud of what we can accomplish together, but I can't do it by myself, just like my staff. Some of my staff are going to think I sit at the right hand of God. Some are going to think I'm a devil's stepchild. But I can tell you this, they're getting ready to go to work. We're getting ready to go to work. Teaching bell to bell, time on task, and I'll take care of your kids for you. Okay? I could go on and on, but I'll do that some work session. And by the way, trust me, anytime you want to know what's going on, text or call me. I'll probably say, I don't have any idea what you're talking about, but I'll find out. It'll be the truth every time. So thanks. Saddle up. It's going to be a ride.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thank you.
Hey, I'll finish. So, a couple more things. We are adopting the new CASB policy manual. That's going to be quite laborious, quite a few work sessions and all that. I suggest, so that we're not burdening our tech department, we do broadcast all of our board meetings, but let's let them not have to do work sessions. You like that idea? You like this? Okay. Good.
I like that idea.
Yeah, I think.
All right. I also discussed with a couple board members this morning about transportation, because the question comes up, where in policy, what does it say that we have to do? So in policy JFBA, it says transportation for students granted permission to attend schools outside their attendance area must be furnished by their parents unless space is available on district buses without disruption of the regular routes and loading areas. So consequently, if a kid's going to another school out of their attendance area, they need to provide transportation. I'll give that to Brad Eldridge, and Brad will finish with the scheduling of the buses, and we'll go from there. Also, on my report, you'll see student attendance. I met with Judge Plew, and we talked about the procedures. He was very specific. When I was here before, we wrote 3, 5, and 8-day letters and 10-day letters and sent them to the parents, even certified letters. He goes, that doesn't play anymore. What does play that's different is that all absences count, which I thought that was interesting, because statute, it used to say that unexcused only. But in the data mining that I've done in other districts, one of the things that came up was if a kid misses more than 10 times in a class, their chances of being proficient in that subject went to 0. So we need kids in class. We need the kids, like Tom said, we need the kids in front of our teachers. We can do it. So anyway, now it's going to be more about interventions. What he talked about, parents are going to have to come meet with them. They're going to have to discuss why a kid's missing so many days, make a plan, sign the plan, and we're going to move forward with hopefully improvement. And if it doesn't, then we meet again and maybe we refer them to the Pinion Project. Something has to happen. We need to show that we have done our interventions. And then when we take him to court, he's already fallen there. If we don't do our interventions, he's going to look at us and go, and you haven't done anything, so we have to do something. On the consent calendar, kind of related, you will find a new position. This position will be our district point of contact for attendance. Right now, we have 400 letters or more, because I only looked at the unexcused absences. But we need to look at what she and I used to call, my secretary and I used to call excessive excused, because you go back to the same number. If you miss 10 or more days, your chances of performing adequately at that subject are just almost zero. So we need to look at that. We're probably going to be in excess of 600 letters. And we've got to keep going on that.
Mr. Burns, when do you start this? At 10 days or 5 days or?
What Todd wants us to do, Judge Blue wants us to do, is to start right away. And if we
With
start,
1 day?
no, not with 1 day, but we need to look at, and he's cumulative. He says, go back to last year and we're going to start with 600 kids. So we're going to see how this is going to play, but he's,
You're going to be very busy.
I know that. And that's why I'm requesting a new position for a person that knows how to do this. In your board packet, you will find a proposal for geocoding of students. We, as the admin team, discussed how are we going to set up the boundaries between Mesa and Kemper. And, you know, Kyle and I could get a map and we could draw a line, and we're not sure how many kids live on each side of the line. So we actually hired someone who can take our data, geocode it into a map, and tell us how many kids in each one of the schools. I talked to that person today, and we discussed a little bit about Toyac and where we have Toyac kids going right now. We only had about 40 Toyac kids at Manal, and we have more than that at each one of the other schools. So the recommendation is probably going to take those 40, which I will find the names out tomorrow, and put those in Mesa. So we will have, we also went over the number of
Why Mesa?
classrooms, because we've got enough class. We have
Okay.
the
I
classroom
just was
capability.
wondering if there was a,
Good question. So she's actually looking at our maps of the school, so you can get the numbers so it matches the classroom availability. I would like to express my gratitude to the principals from Kemper, Manal, and Mesa. This is a big deal to have done as quickly as we've done it. And without those principals really actively involved, it would not have gone as well as it is going. So thank you to them. In your packet, you will find a proposal from Frontline Education. Frontline is an automated substitute attendance program. Cynthia's sitting there going, yeah, because what we used to do is call into a person and say, we're going to be sick. And then the principals, we had to call and try to find a substitute. Liz does it all on its own. And it's actually going to save time, and it's going to save real money in switching over to this. I'm really excited about it. Kimberly is like fully invested, and they said, oh, it's going to take 2 months for implementation, and Kimberly's going to have it done in 3 weeks. So it's one of those get on it and get on
so
and
this
go.
is where they go in and a teacher will dial in and say, I'm sick today, and the machine will call and give us some,
Yes,
or
The
they
teacher
can,
will log into a program. Actually, it will be called staff. Will log into Frontline and submit their absence request. So it will track absences across the district.
so you can protect, I'm going
For
to,
the position, when they log in, it will be assigned on whether or not they have to have a sub or not.
Right.
So when they log in and request the day off, the sub sheet is uploaded. They can assign favorites, their favorite sub for their, or their sub could have worked in their classroom. And it will start on the top. It will send a text message or a phone call, or however the sub wants to be notified. And it will say, we have an opening on this date, will you take this class? And if they say no, they deny it, it'll go to the next one, and then the next one. And then also substitutes can log into the program, and they can see a calendar through the next end of the year for all absences that are input. And they can actually choose any of those days that they want work and take over those days that are on the calendar.
So I will use this system, so I'll log in, use my little password. And my job doesn't require a substitute, but it tracks that I'll be gone, whether it's professional leave or whether it's sick leave or whatever. So we'll know that. This also interfaces with iVision, so it's going to talk directly to Kyle's.
But it helps, there'll be more up-to-date numbers on leaves. If someone has so many days and they go in and request a day off, they'll see real time how many days are available. And let's say that they went in and they don't have any days available. Well, there's options on our side to set that up to either allow someone to override that and then they get docked, or not allow them to take the day off because they don't have a day, just depending on the case or the scenario and the time of year. So.
So my question is, how are principals gonna know ahead of time that Stacy Hall's not gonna be at work today?
Because the administrator has to approve that.
So when,
One thing
So,
I'm sick, it's sick, like if I get sick the night before, right?
Uh-huh.
I didn't meet something in the morning.
It'll be that morning. There will be a cutoff time when you can't go in and request a sub. You'll have to contact the administrator directly.
Oh, okay.
But if I submit, say I go in and I submit for an absence, before it can move on to go to the sub, my supervisor or my administrator has to review it and say, yes, approved, yes, approved, yes, approved.
Okay. So the principals have to be on it earlier in the morning to know what's going on. Okay.
In case we don't have.
It's the same way that it is right now. They wait until they get the sub report. It usually doesn't come out till 10 or 11 o'clock.
Right.
To find out
Right,
who's not there.
right, because they called Tanya and they might not know until they walk.
And this
the
is a
halls
much
to find
better absence tracking across the
oh,
district.
and she,
And you guys volunteered for a day over at Manal, and we knew that the night before, and you didn't get the call till the next morning.
right,
This will get you the night before,
Or
up
whenever
to-
it's open.
up to a certain time. They won't call, I think we said ours at 9 o'clock.
All of these prior perimeters, questions you're asking, what if or here, these are perimeters that we can set within the district. So what
cool.
time do we stop calling at night? What's our cutoff in the morning?
Mm.
How far out in advance can somebody request it? These are all perimeters that we get to set by position.
Nice.
so say one of us as a board member needed to sub like we did last year. We would be at the very bottom of the list, right? So that
Substitutes.
everybody else could get paid because we don't get paid.
And you can also choose days that you're willing to sub, times that you're willing to sub, times that you cannot sub. You can go in and block off months at a time, you can't do it, or put in specific dates that you are available. So it'll go directly to contact you for that specific time. Perimeters.
Perimeters. That's what I say today, policy.
So what about the teachers get sick in the middle of the day and that's doing or something?
Good question. Well, there's also, you can go in and you can request a half a day off. It's just a matter of making sure that all staff know that the requirements are that you have to log into this program, and it can be downloaded on the app on your phone too, so make it simpler to notify that you are leaving. I'm sick, I'm gonna leave. It would be like in the morning, like if you wake up and you get ready for work, and let's say something happens on the way to work and you can't make it, so you can't request the sub that morning at a certain cutoff time. So you would need to contact someone in the administration or your principal or assistant principal or someone, a secretary, and say, hey, I'm not able to come in this morning, I can't request a day off. Either the secretary, the AP, or the principal will be able to go in and mark that person absent and then override it and request the sub at that time. And then they can do the same thing for half a day, because you can select the parameters for time, whether it's a full day or a half a day. Whatever we will allow them to take off that time, you know. As far as a drop-down menu, and you can choose which one you want to select. And there's one you could put as a half.
I would say my experience at the high school is that about 80% of all staff absences are pre-planned out a week or two in advance.
This will also help, I don't want to say enforce, but provide specific guidelines that are even and across the board for our policy on time off. Right now, we have specific issues for discretionary time. You can't take it the first 2 weeks of school or the last 2 weeks of school. And I know that Lane, we've had this conversation as far as the difference, but it's not to be used to extend a holiday or, so there's specific dates that you cannot use discretionary time. However, the employees will fill out the paperwork and they'll give it to their administrators, and they're not enforcing that across the board. Some are and some are not. And then by the time it reaches that paper, it reaches my office. It's usually past the day and they've already taken the day off. And so this way it will enforce, you know, you can't use that type of leave for this day. And if you don't have any other day and it's approved and it's unpaid. So at least it will be consistently enforced. And there won't be some people who can use it and some people who can't. And I truly appreciate that. I hate being the person who says denied based on policy, but yet it's already triggered. So
Well, and it sounds like you're trying to balance it too, so you don't have, if somebody wants a discretionary day and you've got 6 people sick, they can't have it, or 6 people have already requested it. So then,
I'm not sure how that's, we're still.
you see what I'm saying on that one?
Sure.
Because that happens.
Yeah, so you can have 15 teachers that are on the same day.
Right.
Yeah.
And then that's an issue you have regardless of what program you're using. So I mean,
Yeah.
this one's just gonna help manage it a little bit better.
And it interfaces with our payroll. So when we do get the absenteeism report at the end of the month, we're not relying on the secretaries to have to fill it out by hand. It's correct, it's real time, and it will just transfer directly to payroll and upload it. So that will eliminate a lot of.
So it takes the pressure off the secretaries too.
And
Human error.
I hope it will be more accurate this way. Because you have to submit that leave in order to take it. So our office is excited with moving into the
Final stretch.
Yeah.
2022.
Absolutely. The replacement buses that we've ordered and the fleet vehicles, those have all been ordered. We will be receiving these throughout the year. Like the buses are not even built yet, so they may be late in the spring.
Do we have enough buses to get us through?
Yes,
Yeah, we have 5 backup buses right now. We're really concentrating on just making sure our bus fleet is up to date. And eventually in a position where we have newer running buses and we're able to schedule those rotations on a better schedule. Instead of, like, we have some buses that have almost 500,000 miles on them. And it's just, that's kind of the direction we're going. And I'll get into that in my report.
one of the things that we met about with BOCES about is our ESS positions, middle school and elementary school. And we do not have certified teachers for either one of those self-contained programs. So we do have, for this year, a BOCES person who's going to be dedicated to the school district. And you'll see me listing her on different things. Stacy Baxter's her name, but we're looking at even housing her in this building so we have access to her. But we need the support in each one of those rooms. We can, as they said, we can put somebody in there who's working towards a certification, but we definitely need the support from BOCES to make that effective. In that, which is not in here because I just figured it out this week, is we take kids from other school districts.
Yes, we do.
We do. So of course, my question is, what do we get paid for taking kids from other school districts?
Don't get their PPOR.
Well, we do. But that's all we get. Now Kyle and I have spent time in other states or in another state. And so those kids who were categorized as D level in that state, you had 2.5 times the PPOR. So about $25,000. All this is PPOR. And what we don't know, we're looking at each other. At one point in time, it was $15,000 and now it's $9,400. Now, even at $15,000, it's costing us a lot more to run that program than what we're taking in. So we need to have the discussion with BOCES and say, okay, tell us how this was established and why did we go away from $15,000 and come back to $9,400? So those are just some of the questions, and I'm sure if Royce is watching, it doesn't surprise her that I've been asking the question. This has been something that I've talked to her about a couple of times.
You know, years ago, going back a long time ago, Duck Creek used to receive money from Utah because of the kids on the point.
Mhm.
Would come in, they were closer to Duck Creek.
Right.
So Utah would pay them.
Right.
So I don't know how much.
It was in those situations that I've seen, it's always PPOR. But in the situation with self-contained PPOR,
Yeah, that's a whole other story.
That's a whole other story. So, and I hope everybody had a great 4th of July and safe, and we just need to get through the hot spell and then we'll get to the cold spell and we'll wonder why it's not hot again.
Then we're going to be complaining.
That's right, all over again. Thank you, board.
Right.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Bruce. Okay, item C, Director of Finance report. Kyle.
All right, good evening, board president, board members, superintendent. In my report, I provided the fourth quarter financial statements covering April through June, really covering the whole year. And essentially, I mentioned in my report, but we're in a good spot. We're gonna, I mean, I can say that we're probably gonna roll about $1 million into the next year. However, on this report that I provided you, it shows about $417,000 deficit. The reason that deficit's there is because we transferred money to our capital reserve account last year in an amount of about 1.6 million. Those projects didn't get finished by June 30th, so there's a lot of money still sitting in there that's going to roll over for capital projects. So if you take into consideration how much money we're rolling in capital reserve, which is right under $1 million, it's about $500,000 that we're going to be rolling into the next year as far as adding to the fund balance we already have. That'll be substantiated by the audit and everything as we move forward. That's kind of where we're at now, is moving into audit prep and audit season. But other than that, just a general reminder that when we have large expenditures that aren't planned, it makes it a little hard to make sure that we can cover salaries and bonuses and things like that. So I know it's hard, things come up, and especially like Manat, that was a decision that had to be made when it was. I don't think we could have planned for it, but it's the less stuff like that we can do, the better off I can comfortably tell you we have money to spend on things. Bus route starts and times. I also provided an update of the bus routes we had last year, how many hours the routes were, and then what it looks like this year and how many hours we saved. Essentially, we had to add 2 buses, but we're still saving 5.5 hours. The reason for adding the 2 additional bus routes is because we went to essentially like a modified 1 bus route. And in order to meet the start and end times that we wanted to at the school, we had to add those 2. But if you look at the overall hours compared to last year, again, we're still driving 5.5 less hours than last year, which is pretty substantial considering we added 2 routes. Next is
Wait.
Oh, sorry.
With this decreasing the hours that on the route, what's that doing to our drivers, their salary?
Because our salary increases were substantial, individual bus routes, I think individual bus routes, the biggest difference was 2 hours.
Yeah.
So everyone else really didn't feel anything in that spot. Those two drivers, and I can confirm this, but those two drivers that are the 2.25 hour difference are new drivers. So they came in at different salary than what was previous anyway. So those people didn't lose anything. These people just came in at a different rate.
Okay, and there are benefits and stuff, but still,
Right.
okay.
The start and end schedule, I just wanted to provide you kind of a platform of what we came up with as far as start and end time for our schedule, so that you know how we calculated to get our hours and the days. So for elementary, you can see based on our start and end time, we're at 992.25 for elementary, and we're at 1090.29 for secondary. If you look at bus drop and pickup times, that next little box below, those are the total hours a day. So, and I understand that people aren't showing up to work right when the kids get dropped off, so the day might be a little longer, but essentially from bus drop off to bus pickup, it's an 8-hour day at elementary, it's an 8.5-hour day at secondary. So even if they were to show up an hour early, take a lunch break, you're still looking at, 8 and some change, and they're working 4 days a week, right? So it's
We're within.
right. It's not a huge jump from last year as far as how much they're working in a day. And, so I just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of that. And then the next one is just a shift in going from a 5-day to a 4-day. And then based on our PD days and the things that we're doing, I just wanted to show the difference in the number of days people are working versus last year. So you have a 12-month A and a 12-month B. The reason for that is we have custodial maintenance that are going to continue to work 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. So they're going to be on that 12-month A calendar. And then you have, it's mostly admin and a couple other positions that are working to kind of, they're working 12 months, but they're also trying to replicate the teacher schedule so that we're here to support them on Fridays. But then on those Fridays that they're not there, also kind of give that benefit to everyone else and allow them not to work. So the idea is, and I think Magus is the one, this is what we're replicating, but on those 4-day weeks, we work 4 days a year. And on those 4.5 days that the teachers work, we work 5 days. So it'll be back and forth. Just making it up. So again, just wanted to show you the difference in the number of days. So everybody got a salary increase and essentially is working 15 days or more less at every position. And then lastly, here's some capital reserve requests that will be at the end. The reason I provided the Mesa roof RFP is because I just wanted to remind you, this was an RFP we did in October. And then based on when we could get materials in and when they started, they were trying to get done before June 30th and didn't work out. So I just wanted to make sure that this amount was represented this year. But this is part of the money that's going to roll over this year and pay for projects this year. Next are the 3 buses, as Mr. Burris mentioned earlier, 2 brand new passenger buses and then 1 sped bus. All come with a 5-year warranty. Essentially, everything's paid for unless we have to have them ship it somewhere or something to get it worked on. But other than that, everything's covered. And it's going to help that fleet out a lot. Like I said, we have a lot of buses that those mechanics have been putting their hard work and soul into to make sure that they're still maintained and driving around. And even as you guys know, last year we had some issues with some buses breaking down over the pass and doing some things. So the idea is to get a fleet that we can rely on and they be in a position where they do hit a certain mark of hours or miles. They're in a position where we can trade them in and get money back for them and put it towards the purchasing of the buses. And then lastly, 2 trucks to add to the fleet, 1 for maintenance and 1 for administration. The maintenance trucks, they put some work on those too. And I would also like to mention and give thanks to our transportation director. His experience and in that role has allowed him to make a lot of connections. So all the buses and all the fleet vehicles that we get at a state bid contract price on top of a fleet price from whatever dealer will give us an additional price. So the truck that we got for maintenance normally would be $80,000-$90,000. We got it for 49 and then put a special thing on a truck on a bed on the back to allow them to do some stuff. Still, it was $64,000, which is way less than we ever could agree to find that truck. Also the buses were, I think the passenger ones were right around 115 and the sped buses were around 130. Again, state contract bids from Colorado. So makes it a lot easier to know that we're getting the best deal we possibly can instead of having to shop around.
And buy used.
Right, and not get the discounts that the school district should be getting when they buy vehicles. So with that, that's about the end of my report. Are there any questions?
How about the mini buses? I know that those are getting lots of miles on them. In fact, I know that this summer we've had to be rescued twice
Right.
for when they've been out to camps.
So that's kind of part of the 5-year plan of trying to replace buses that need it the most needed ones. Those are in the loop. It's just these are the buses we wanted to purchase this year. And then next year, if we decide we need to replace a minibus or if we still need to, we'll go that route. But I do understand the point. It's a lot easier to get someone trained to drive a minibus than it is a
Yeah.
bus.
Well, coaches and
Exactly.
other activities, those people can drive those easier and it's cheaper.
Right.
That or those Suburbans, I know the coaches are enjoying those.
That's another
Suburbans.
option too, that's kind of a multi-purpose thing.
I mean, I understand because when the federal government took away our 8-pass or those
Right.
vans, we can't transport kids in
Yes.
those. And that's a safety issue and I have no
Right.
problem with that, but I know those are getting
Some miles off.
some miles on them and, like I say, I know 2 different times kids and coaches have had to be rescued this summer, so.
We're working.
Okay.
So we're doing a total of 5 buses, correct?
So 2
2 out of the general fund?
passenger and 1 special education bus. So a total of 3 buses.
But I thought we were doing 2 out of the general fund and then 3 out of the capital reserve. Is that correct?
So they're all gonna come out of capital
They're
reserve.
all coming up.
Yeah. There was a time when we discussed maybe purchasing buses out of ESSER.
That's
What
right.
happened was we asked and they wouldn't allow us to purchase the buses, they would allow us to lease them. And it really didn't work for what we needed for.
I've been looking at, I'm not bad at this, the financial statements. I noticed that all the elementary schools went over their budget this year. Is there a reason?
So what happened there is they necessarily didn't go over. There was some positions that were funded out of grants that reflect the general fund here that they hadn't been encumbered yet because of
Oh,
timing.
okay.
But essentially with the retention bonus and some other things, it maxed everybody out.
So when we used, which brought me to my next question, the retention, could we use ESSER funds for that retention?
ESSER funds can only be given in a time of a health emergency for those.
So then my next question is rural funding. We could use that.
Right,
And have we ever used it for something else?
we have.
Okay,
We did last year. We used some of the rural funding. We actually received the rural funding in the beginning of the year last year. And we helped pay for some of that previous curriculum from the year before.
okay. So we, hopefully we'll have some of them this year.
But yeah, we should.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thanks, Cal.
All righty. Item E, Executive Director of Human Resources Report. Did I skip somebody? Nope. Oh, Jim, Executive Director of Student Academic Services Board Report. So,
And Jim is sick. If you have any questions about that, we will try to field those questions.
okay, yeah, he was.
Yeah, it's pretty clear.
Okay, and now it's Cynthia's turn.
Good evening.
board members, superintendent, guests here tonight. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present my board report. I'm going to review the information I provided you rather quickly, as I would like to turn over the time to Ms. Sam and John Corbett, who will be presenting an update on our benefits and directed through our broker, USI. On the HR updates, Mr. Burris has already given you an update on the substitute call streamlining implementation. And then, so I will skip that section. I want to move over to staffing openings under 2022-23 staff openings, and wanted to give you an update on what we are doing to work with BOCES and recruit and obtain special ed teachers. So meeting with BOCES, they have indicated how we can utilize contract individuals to prepare and write the IEPs, manage IEP meetings, and perform student progress. We have obtained and secured 3 individuals to assist, one at the middle school, one at Kidborough, and one at Mesa. Those individuals will start in 8 days. Now, they are not Montezuma-Cortez School District employees per se, but they are contracted through what is called local vision. Their services will be provided throughout the school year, and an effort to provide more time for the special education department and teachers to do specific work with the students while these individuals will perform like writing and meetings and student progress. So that will be a great help. I'm also working with a recruiting agency trying to find special ed teachers. It's very challenging at this time, to say the very least. Special ed, certified licensed special ed teachers are really a diamond. That's what I can say in minutes. I'm doing our very best for the district to recruit those teachers. But in the meantime, we have contracted for these services that will alleviate and help a great deal. If you could move on to the last page, I wanted to see. I just really wanted to address the fact that by closing Manaa, we are moving staff members to Mesa and to Kemper. And I was worried, a little apprehensive when this happened. I was worried how our staff would take the relocating, and even the schools, the staff at Kemper and the staff at Mesa, you know, they're accepting more students and other staff members. And I just want the board to know that the culture of this district and at those schools have been phenomenal. All of the staff, the teachers have shown a welcome with open arms approach to not only the staff at Manaa, but also the students. And speaking with them, I am so proud to be a part of this district and those schools, because this could be a very difficult situation. And our staff have truly stepped up to the plate and have shown that they are willing to work together. That their team is not just their school, it's the district. And the culture that they are showing and providing, I just want to take this time to really give them credit for what they're doing and to make sure that you all know how proud I am and that we all should be of every effort that they are putting into making this a positive experience for the staff and for the students. there is some parents that are still a little worried because they don't know exactly what school their students are going to. And they have been contacting the admin and asking those questions, and I welcome that. And as soon as we have the boundaries laid out, that information will be presented and made public, and all of those callbacks to those individuals who are asking the questions. But, just a little bit of patience and appreciation for the staff goes a huge, long way. And I just want the board to know how amazing this is being handled by the staff.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Mr. Burris has touched on almost every other subject that I have in so I don't need to. And with that, I would like to turn the time over to Ms. Ann Robles, who is here in person today, to provide.
Cynthia, how close are we on the high school and middle school openings on here and stuff?
As far as the openings,
How close are we to having them filled in?
I spoke with Emily Moreland at the beginning of the week, and then also with the new principal. I was gonna say the beginning of the week, but that was yesterday, so it was this morning. We have added several more new hires that weren't added to the consent calendar today because they were after the deadline yesterday afternoon. We are making progress, and I'm working closely with several individuals to obtain alternative license after they've been enrolled in a program, and emergency license. Also with the substitutes, long-term subs, which can be a temporary fill while individuals are enrolling in another program, or if they don't already have a bachelor's degree. But my main effort is to hire licensed teachers, qualified and experienced licensed teachers. If we have a core class, that's where I'm moving our licensed, experienced, qualified teachers. So if we're short, then we're looking at possibly specials or other areas to where it would be acceptable to have an individual in an alternative program and fill that position. We are making progress. I promise I can't guarantee that we're going to have every position filled by the time school starts, but I do know that every administrator is working outside their contract right now in performing interviews and recruiting and maneuvering people around and doing the best we can to make sure that we are offering top-notch education to our students here in Montezuma-Cortez. It is definitely a priority this time and all year. With a focus for me right now on special education, because I do know that we have a dire need there and we are short-staffed, and moving whole programs of life skills from Mana to Mesa, we have substantial backing and services provided by skilled and experienced paraprofessionals coming from that program that we're moving alongside with them and working with BOCES to address staffing shortages, but yet depending and relying on the paraprofessionals, and then these IEP specialists that we contract to fill in that. So we're making progress. We are.
Good deal.
I have a question. Last year I heard teachers complaining that they had kids that they did not know had IEPs. So we're going to make sure that they know that and know what their IEPs are now. This was mainly at the high school. So I don't know who let down. We didn't follow through, but it needs to be.
I think that should be addressed by the counselors. The counselors that are assigned for that grade level. Those counselors should have an in-depth knowledge of the students under their care, of what their cases are, what they have, and especially transferring from the middle school over to the high school or new students, if
So
they have that to follow through.
Is it up to the teacher to go and find out, or?
Well, if it's the high school and I mean, there's not just one teacher,
No,
so
And
that's what I
when
said, I
we
think
don't
we
have like 200 kids.
follow counselor to make sure that that's, but, you know,
Just
that's a
giving you a
good
head,
question.
I'm just giving you a heads up. That was the complaints I heard.
I'd be happy to reach out to our AP and talk to her about this. And also I can speak to the principal about it, but I would really like to find out through Emily Moreland, who is the responsible party for tracking that. Once I determine that, then I can definitely reach out to those individuals and put that on their
Yeah.
radar.
I just, follow through.
And I know that there's case managers and there's counselors for each individual, so that should be tracked at that level.
Sorry to give you a heads up. But I just hadn't think about what it's talking about.
Any other questions?
Oh, ma'am, thank you so much.
So
We have,
this is Ann Robles. She is our senior account manager, correct? Yes. With USI.
there, welcome.
All of. Let me get the remote control for you. Ann. Handing over the baton.
Thank you. The schedules the PowerPoint. Well, members of the board, superintendent, thank you so much for allowing me to come talk about your benefits today. It's nice to see you guys in person. I know last time I was virtual, so I always prefer seeing people in person. I've been talking to a screen for 2.5 years, so I very much enjoy being out here. So we're going to go over some updates today. I'll provide you some vendor updates.
And I'm just gonna interrupt you. John, can you hear us? See, Superintendent?
Yeah, I'm good. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we just wanted to make sure everyone knew you were here too.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. It's so nice to see you again, and I'll see you next meeting.
So today we're going to talk about some of your renewal updates. So update where we're at with marketing, and then from there we'll do some vendor updates, go through all of that. And then this time, instead of going through your plan financials, we do have some benchmarking data that I think it would be valuable to review with the board as we start going into this season of looking at vendors and possibly doing some changes to your benefit plans. So this is just a reminder of all the wonderful people that are currently working on your account. Usually we'll be hearing from John and I, but there are a lot of people that are working behind the scenes to make sure that you guys are getting the best service possible. So this is the timeline. This was the same timeline that I had included in the packet from last time. However, I have made some updates to it. Anything that's in green will be something that is, recently progressed. So we were able to get the stop loss renewal analysis presented. That is currently being implemented. Those decisions have been made. And then today I did meet with Cindy and the HR team, and we discussed the TPA marketing results for possibly looking at replacing PMS for either a separate TPA or from the ASO perspective. So we are going to kind of from there take that, probably get some more information from the carriers, and then we'll have the next board meeting. We'll have kind of the finalists that we feel like would be the best options come and present directly to the board. So that way you can hear from them. They can really sell their product, and you can make a decision from there. But we feel like instead of taking the time to go through all these TPA results, it would probably be best for us just to bring in the finalists. So for the PUM marketing, that has been sent to the market as a replacement for Magellan. There's been a lot of noise around Magellan not being a very good value to the employees. So we are actively looking at finding a better pharmacy benefit manager. We should have those results back pretty soon. It takes a little bit longer than the TPA because there's a lot of work involved with that, but that should be, available to present with the TPA finalists. And then with the ancillary, that'll be coming up pretty soon. I'm getting ready to send that out to bid. So any questions before I go on to the vendor update? So for EBMS, there are no new updates since our previous school board meeting. I do have an update from Cofinity. So we did get a notification that Cofinity is going to be sunset. That network is going to be sunset, and it's going to be replaced with a network called First Health, and First Health actually owns Cofinity. So basically they're just retiring out the Cofinity network. If you guys remain with EBMS, then that'll just be an automatic switch out that'll occur on 1/1/2023. So the employees will get new ID cards. They'll reflect that First Health network. In the letter that we received from them, they say that that this First Health network is about 97% of the Cofinity network. So there should be very minimal disruption. And that it's going to have to be really an education standpoint. We did look at some TPAs who also coded Cofinity as the network. So it would be First Health that would be put in play. So basically that's just going to be the replacement for the Cofinity network. AccuRisk Solutions, they've been made aware that they have been terminated as of the end of June as our stop loss carrier as we're moving over to Symetra, which we had discussed at the previous board meeting. We're currently in the process of doing that implementation. And then for Magellan and Delta Dental, we don't really have any updates as of the last board meeting, but I'm sure with Magellan, they requested to participate in the PPM RFP process. So we'll definitely probably have updates on the next board meeting from them.
Hey, Ann, sorry to interrupt. Can we possibly share your screen? I'm just unable to follow along with your screen.
He might be on a little bit late.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because my screen says that.
Yeah, I'm viewing Tamara's screen. And it,
I don't have a screen.
okay. Can we just follow along with whatever slide you're presenting online?
We're working on it. So he's saying, you're seeing the correct camera, right, John?
I'm seeing you, and then I'm seeing the title page of the Montezuma-Cortez School District's board meetings update slide. So it's the first slide. It just has an advanced.
We're on we should be starting plan performance assessment. All right, what slide are you seeing now?
Need one more.
No slides. It looks like the screen share was turned off. Okay, so we're back at the first slide. There we go.
I have to not show it in the presentation.
Is it not advancing when I advance it here?
No, I don't believe so, Ann, but if we could bring the magnification up to at least 100%, that would be great too, on the lower right-hand corner.
I'm not controlling the screen at the moment, so.
Okay, it looks like I've got vendor update page 8.
Yeah.
So the next one's plan performance.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let me know.
Okay, so are you gonna, okay. Sort of a pointless. Let me turn this off so I don't accidentally mess with anything there. Okay, perfect. So we could go to the next slide that says 2022 plan performance assessment. There we go. So this is the plan performance assessment that I wanted to walk through the board with tonight. This is all data that USI collects. We send out a survey every year to employers all over the country, have them complete it, discussing, in detail the benefits that they offer. And when we're able to then take this data and then cut it by different segments, and then we can use that to compare your plans to the responses that we receive from your market peers. Next, and one more. There's a lot of extra information in the slides that I will kind of skip through because I really want to make sure that I'm getting to the data, and then if you have all of this extra stuff that you can review as well, because it's very in depth. So I just want to review real quick. So these are the different benchmark groups that we are comparing your plan information to. So for the industry, we are comparing the school districts against 152 participants. For group size, we had compared you to employer size 250 to 500 employees. And from there, we have a lot larger cut of about 453. And then also our mountain region responses. So that's going to be 714 participants. So it is kind of a really good sample size of data. We'll go to the next one. Next one that says plan design value. Perfect, thank you. So the plan design value, basically what this is doing is it's showing what the actuarial value of your current plan designs are compared to your market peers. So looking at these three different plan designs, so you've got your high deductible health plan with the HSA, that's your plan A. Your plan B, which is kind of your middle plan, it's traditional copay plan, and then you've got plan C, which is your richest plan with the lowest deductible. These all have an assigned actuarial value. So for your plan A and your plan B, you're sitting right around 71 and 77% overall actuarial value. But when compared to school districts, the average that we got from their responses is sitting at about an 84% actuarial value. So there is a little bit, we're lagging a little bit behind in that area. However, I will kind of explain a little bit why sometimes it's difficult to compare you to school districts based on actuarial value because of network considerations, and I'll address that in another slide. However, if we do compare you down to the 250 to 500 employees and mountain employees, you're a little bit more in line. So next slide. So this is going to be the plan design by value. And this is going to go more into depth instead of just taking your overall plans as a whole and assigning the actuarial value. It's going to compare deductible out-of-pocket maximum co-insurance and then also HRA, HSA funding considerations. So one thing that I do want to point out real quick is we're looking at your plans. So you have your plan B and C, which are your traditional network copay plans, and then you've got your plan A, which is the HSA high deductible health plan. So when comparing them to the school districts, as you can see, school districts are looking at an actuarial value of around 90% and a deductible of around 500. This is how I want to address that, is that if you look there, it's under regional or performance network plans. It's pretty typical for school districts to be contracted with Kaiser, so to speak. And because they are within that Kaiser network, which it's a closed network, they control their costs pretty tightly. It's a nonprofit. It does allow them to have a little bit of a richer plan design because what they are lacking in network, they're making up for in the plan design. Whereas with Montezuma-Cortez School District, you're in a very rural location. Having a narrow network isn't an option. So you guys have a broader national network, which is going to be, why it's difficult to compare by plan design and actuarial value to other school districts. So that's just something to keep in mind because we don't have the option to go and pull in a Kaiser because there's no network for Kaiser here. We've got to keep you on a national network, and that in and of itself is considered a benefit, and it's going to be a little bit more expensive from a cost standpoint. The other thing that I wanted to call out when looking at these qualified high deductible plans on the bottom is your deductible compared to school districts and 50 to 500 employees and your mountain peers. You're a little bit higher at $4,000. And another thing that I wanted to point out is that for the HSA funding, we currently do not offer any type of HSA funding for the employees, either from a matching or just a flat out contribution into their health savings account, which is pretty typical for other school districts. So I think that that's something that we should consider, especially if we really want to kind of encourage the young healthy employees to take advantage of that high deductible health plan, doing education through how the HSA works. And I think that instead of just offering straight up, we're going to give you X amount of dollars every year, is doing a match program. So you're saying if you put in up to this amount of money every month in your HSA, then the school district will we'll match it to a maximum amount. That way it encourages them to be participating into that health savings account, but you're also going to say that, we're going to, come to the table and offer some of that as well. Another thing about is to consider is, and we can talk about this as we get further along in the TPA marketing review process, when we kind of firm up rates and plan designs, is potentially lowering that deductible a little bit, just to make it a little bit more appealing to the employee. At $4,000 upfront cost is pretty substantial. So I think bringing that down by $1,000 and including a little bit of a contribution to the health savings account will, really, I think, help kind of drive participation there, because there's really not a huge incentive to enroll in that plan. And it's a perfect plan for younger, healthy employees who are rarely going to see the doctor. So we kind of, just to kind of bring that education and kind of also bring you more in line with your market peers by having a little bit richer of a plan there. I think that your other two plans are pretty much in line with the market overall. And so I really don't see a huge recommendation of making any changes there. I think that if we kind of focus on that HSA plan, that I think that'd be very beneficial. We'll go to the next slide. So this also is going to show employer funded account values. So this just goes into a little bit more detail about the contribution amounts for the qualified high deductible health plans. These top two are just showing health reimbursement arrangement contributions, which you currently don't have to recommend putting in an HRA for any of your plans unless there's a compliance reason for doing that. But if you're looking at the qualified high deductible health plans, school districts are putting in on average about $1,050 annually for employees and then $1,500 for families. Payroll contribution. So this is really going to do a comparison for how much your employees are paying per paycheck for their benefits versus where you're sitting at with your peer groups. If you can see, taking notice onto this page, that you're kind of a little bit lopsided in the sense that you've got really affordable, attractive coverage for employees, but when they need to cover their family, then you're kind of on the other side of the spectrum of having a lot more expense to that employee coming out of their paycheck every month from a cost perspective. The biggest area that we see this is for Plan A. You currently have $0, so that's the HDHP plan. It's free for the employee. However, if they want to cover their family, it's going to be $815 a month. And then they have that really large deductible that they need to meet. So it can be quite the cost for that employee. And looking at Plan B and C, the variation or that deviation gets even bigger. So it's going to be $1,153 a month for an employee to have their family enrolled on that plan, where it's only $93 for the employee only. Looking at your peer group, the school districts being on average about $603 a month for the employees to cover their family. I think that it might be worth exploring increasing that employee contribution amount a little bit, and then being able to bring that family contribution down. So we're kind of putting a little bit more on the employees, but that way we can then relocate some of that money or reallocate it so that we can have a little bit more coverage, affordable coverage for the families. One of the issues, and I know that there's some employers that really we want to have it free for our employees, which is really great, especially when you're hiring younger employees, because they're like, great, I don't have to pay for my insurance. But then as soon as they get married and have children, now they're going to realize, oh, no, I have to pay at least $800 a month, and they're going to start looking elsewhere. And you want to be able to recruit employees, but you also want to retain them. And if you're hiring younger employees, you want them to stay over their career, and that means they're likely going to have a family. You want to make sure that coverage is affordable.
And I'll just add a quick note, if you don't mind. Essentially, members of the board, this strategy, unfortunately, tends to penalize self-funded groups because you're seeing more members defray from the plan, given the cost in the family and dependent range versus the employees. So really what you want to do on a self-funded program is you want to encourage as many members to get onto the plan, which is that 80% to offset the costs of the sick 20%. So really you're almost penalizing the best class to have on your program. So as Ann mentioned, it might make sense to review the contribution strategy this year, because you want to encourage as many folks to be on that plan as possible to balance out your risk, as well as what Ann mentioned, with single parent families, this type of coverage and luxury becomes unattainable given the cost, and unfortunately will drive your turnover quite a bit. Thanks, Ann.
Thank you, John. So the next slide is going to be a little bit more of the same. It kind of goes into a little bit more detail when doing that comparison of the monthly contribution for employee versus family. And as you guys can see with that, you're kind of really hanging out over the edge with some of that. So another reason why it would be great to kind of do some contribution modeling, which our underwriter is going to be able to do, kind of like how can we work these numbers so that everything can fall in line. That's not going to be a drastic increase to the district's costs. The next one, the overall value, this one is a little bit more tricky to understand. And so I won't spend a ton of time on this one, because what the overall value is what we're looking at is how much out-of-pocket cost is the employee seeing from not only how much the premium standpoint on a monthly basis, but then also what you can expect their average medical cost to be while they're covered on that plan. Like I said, this one I don't think is really telling as much of the information that we want to need, although we kind of want to be a little bit more, I think, centered as far as, you know, making sure that there's not too much, and they're not paying so much in premium, and then also there's a lot of monthly cost that comes out. So like with that plan A, with the high deductible health plan, if you can see there, with it being $1,634, is not only do they have a decent, you know, if they're covering a family, they've got that $800 a month coming out of their paycheck, but they're also on the high deductible health plan. So that means that they're going to have a lot of upfront costs if they're having a lot of doctor's visits for, you know, their children that are above and beyond the primary care. They're going to be paying that negotiated amount. It's usually about $150. So it can end up being quite a substantial cost to the family who's enrolled on that high deductible health plan, not only from a premium, but from a monthly expense standpoint. So this is kind of the same. I won't spend too much time on this slide because it's kind of showing the same data as we had on the other slide. If you want to go to the communications. So this is this is communications of how we want to work with communicating your benefits to your employees. It's really important that when you work hard to put a benefit plan in place that you're offering your employees, that you effectively communicate it so they understand the value of what the district is offering and how to use it. So that's one thing that we're definitely going to be working on with USI, is being a lot more hands-on approach and making sure that all your employees thoroughly understand exactly what is being offered to them. So I will be here the week after next to meet with all of the new hires and go over the benefits with them. And then I'll be back down for open enrollment to go through, you know, discuss that as well, especially if we make changes. It'll be really important that we walk through that with employees. Another thing that we can take advantage of is that we do have the ability to do electronic communication. So we can do pre-recorded PowerPoints for your benefits and then send that over. And then it'll allow you then to send out to new hires as they come on throughout the year. It'll just basically be a PowerPoint presentation that we would have done in open enrollment. However, it's a little bit nicer. It's got a voiceover. They can, you know, skip from slide to slide. Makes it pretty effective to communicate your benefits so that you don't have to have somebody from HR sit down and go through the benefits every time you have somebody new that comes onto the plan. For third-party tools, it says utilize a third-party health claims advocacy service. So that's basically what USI provides through our benefit resource center, is we're able to help your employees for if they have any claims issues, if they have questions on their plans. We've got benefit specialists that will be able to work with them and help them through the entire process, especially when it comes to claims. They can help write appeal letters. They can work directly with the carriers. It makes it a lot easier for them to for the employees to not have to contact the carriers, because the carriers can be very difficult to work with. So that's where USI comes in, and they will have that resource available to them. It also takes time off of Cindy and her team, but you know, usually right now they're quarterbacking a lot of those employee issues and bringing them to my attention, and which is great. I'm glad I'm able to get involved and I'm able to see exactly what's going on. But this will take that off of their hands and being able to kind of pass that off to our benefit resource center. It's HIPAA compliant, And we can do reporting, every year to see what that utilization looks like and what kind of cost savings that was even able to bring to the district. If you want to go to the next one that says overinsurance, there we go. So this is kind of the bell curve of the results that we got from our benchmarking survey. And it kind of shows, from an actuarial standpoint, where you should be on the plan. So we want to kind of make sure that when we're, doing your benefits strategy, that we keep you towards the middle. We don't want to have you be an outlier, meaning that you have a plan, plans that are very lean compared to your competitors, or plans that are too rich, in which they could be costing the district a lot of money. We want to keep you right in the middle, which is currently where we have your plan A, your high deductible health plan, sits just to the left of that top response at the 17%, for that 70 to 74 actuarial value. Your plan B, which is your middle plan, is right there at the very top at that 22.3%. And then your plan C, which is your richest plan, is right to the right of that. So you kind of are like at the top, and then you're kind of gold, silver, bronze, so to speak, when you're looking at that, which is kind of a good thing. We want to make sure that we are able to have your plans at a decent actuarial spread so that there's kind of something for everyone. The next one that I wanted to look at real quick is the plan strategy for population health. The next one. Thank you. So population health and wellness is something that I know that is really important for the districts to be able to get something into place for the employees. Not only is it good just for morale booster, but being able to have a wellness plan in place to encourage healthy behaviors does, is good for you from a financial standpoint year over year. This is kind of looking at what different employers in your peer group are offering. So for the first one, at that really high 76% of organizations promoting primary care physician engagement. The reason why school districts is so high is a lot of them, like I said, are with the Kaiser and have an HMO, which usually require a primary care physician, and it requires a lot of education because it's important that they're utilized. That is not currently, you do not have an HMO, you do not need to have a primary care physician, and we would never want to put you in this situation where employees are required to have one because you're in a rural area and it's not always easy to even see a doctor. So I kind of would say ignore that one, but that's why, in case you're curious why that one is so high for school districts, that's probably the reason. There's also different incentives that we can discuss implementing over the next coming years, as far as incentivizing employees to do certain behaviors such as getting physical, or if they want to join a gym or any type of that. We can. There's a lot that we can discuss. Premium differentials and HSA HRA funding are definitely one of the more popular ones to use. However, there's a lot of compliance legality around that we have to make sure that we adhere to, which can be a little bit cumbersome from an administrative standpoint. Gift cards are another one that are pretty popular to use. One of the things that we had discussed when we looked at Cigna as an ASO option for you guys is they actually do have a wellness fund, and that's usually where we could tap in and get the money. And a lot of employers will then use gift cards as that incentivation to something that would be like, this is a gift card to go get a gym membership, or to a health food store, something that they could then use that to encourage that healthy behavior. So a lot of stuff that you can see that's being utilized that's definitely on our radar as we are coming up in the next year or two. It's hard to implement a wellness program overnight. It does take some thought and some strategy, because we want to make sure that we're doing it correctly and in compliance. So some additional things that we have on here that, you have a behavioral health solutions as part of your population health management. It's in the EAP program that you have with Triad that gives those free counseling services to employees and members of their house. Another thing that's coming into play a lot is direct primary care. This is not an option for Montezuma-Cortez School District because you don't have any direct primary care providers in this area. So in those high population areas, direct primary care is becoming a pretty popular thing that employers are integrating with their health plan. But so that comes up, you don't have any direct primary care providers, so there's no way we can implement that, because they're basically providers that, well, they don't bill the insurance, you pay them a monthly fee, and that monthly fee is all inclusive care. You can see them however documents you need. You can, message them 24 hours a day, but they have to be here in order for us to implement that. And then musculoskeletal care, a lot of that is chiropractics. They actually had a school district that paid for a separate chiropractic plan for all their employees to be able to get chiropractic services done. That would be, I think, a pretty difficult thing to implement here as well. Population health management, the next one. So this is also just really breaking it down into what type of population health management strategies employers are using for their employee population. The biometric screenings and health risk assessments, that's, that's something that you ever want to consider doing. You have to make sure to kind of get a third party in there because we don't want the district to be collecting that PHI from the employees directly. We want someone else to be doing that and just giving you the results. And then gym reimbursement, I'd say that's becoming one of the more popular ones is for employers to say, you bring us your invoice for $25, up to $25, we'll reimburse you for a gym membership. I'm seeing that coming into play a lot more as an incentive for employees to work on that exercise in. And then just to finish up, because yeah, I said there's a lot in here, but not all of it is really important that we go over. The plan strategy for prescription drugs, reviewing pharmacy contracts. John and our pharmacy benefit manager consultant have been working very, very hard. We've gone through the Magellan contract inside and out, and which is why we had sent it out to bid. They are, responding to that RFP because they know that we're not currently very happy with their services, and we'll likely be moving it. But we are very aware of everything that's going on in your PBM. As I told somebody earlier today, those are my favorite vendors to hold their feet to the fire and go after them because I am really, I think that if a doctor prescribes a medication for an employee, they should be paying for it instead of making them jump through hoops. Their, primary care physician probably knows better than the PBM or their physician sitting in another state what that means. So I will always go to bat when it comes to those pharmacy services for the employees of the district. And then finally, I think that that's really the most that I wanted to discuss. I think it's going to be pertinent to, I think the last one was a voluntary worksite benefits, pertinent to our goals for this upcoming plan year. So you guys do offer a lot of voluntary benefits. Those are mostly through American Fidelity. So just so you know that we will market that as well in your ancillary bid because we want to make sure that what American Fidelity is offering their employees is the best value for the cost. So we will be able to do that comparison. And then you offer the flexible spending accounts for healthcare and dependents. So I think from a voluntary worksite benefit standpoint, you guys do have a pretty robust offering for your employees to participate in. And that is it. The very back of your presentation is going to be a lot of that raw data. So that is, if you want, I won't go through that because then we'll really be here all night. So that's there for you guys to be able to review. And if you have questions, then by all means, you can get in contact with John and I. If there's a question or concern, and we'll be happy to walk through that with you.
I have a question.
Yes.
We have charter schools here. Are they eligible to be on our insurance plan? And if so, how do we charge it?
So that is a really good question. And that is something that Cindy and I have been discussing for the past 2 days. And the simplest way to put it is they're really not eligible to be on your insurance plan because they're not employees of the district. If you wanted to have them on your plan, you would have to go through the process of, you'd have to put together what's called a MIWA, which is a multiple employer welfare association, which aren't even legal in the state of Colorado. So the issue with that, and I know you're thinking, well, they've been on our plan for X amount of time and their claims are getting paid. That's because EBMS doesn't really care that much about eligibility because they're not paying your claims, you're paying your claims. They're just administering the claim payment. Who does care is your stop loss carrier because that's their money. So they are going to care and they will check eligibility. So if you have an employee that has a charter school employee that has a really large claim that comes in and they hit stop loss and it's time for reimbursement, they're going to call the district and be like, we want to verify eligibility of this participant. And if they are not an employee of the district, they will not pay. So that is going to be,
So we need to drop our charter schools and tell them to get their own insurance.
yes, and that's something that we are able to assist with. John and I are able to work with them. I've had many charter school clients before to set up a benefit plan for them.
Great. Because we told some people today that they weren't eligible.
Yeah.
And that just kind of helps me in my frame of mind.
I think that the best example that I can give really is premature babies. They're called $1 million babies for a reason. And if you were to have a charter school employee who were to give birth to a premature baby, they go to Durango, which is uncommon in Colorado in this elevation for babies to be premature. And they got to chopper them to Denver to go to Children's Hospital. You're looking at a $1 to $2 million claim that would not be reimbursed by stop loss because they're not an employee of the district. So that's where, like, that doesn't happen all the time, but just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean that it won't happen.
Okay, so we need to talk.
Probably for you, John, if you can hear me. I think back in December when we first started looking at some of this, one of the strategies was to increase participants into the plan by getting those families and stuff in. At $815 a month, where are we at, or how are we going to make that work?
It's a great question. Currently financial performance is pointing in a good direction. We're holding steady. We haven't yet triggered any threshold for aggregate stop loss in terms of overall claims levels. We're remarketing all your contracts currently. So far since our engagement, we've been able to stem the increase in stop loss coverage from your renewal to cover the 6-month period to get us to the end of the calendar year. We saved about 60 grand there. With our TPA review, currently we're looking at least an annual savings of at least $60,000 additional, plus added benefits depending on what direction the board decides to take. However, it's really the financial performance on the claims and the claims management. So there are some techniques and some programs that are out there that do receive some carrier subsidization to further improve employee relationships with providers. Like right now, we would most likely see about only 30% of your actual enrolled population talking to a primary care physician or regular provider. So that means 70% are outside that scope, meaning those folks aren't getting regular checkups. They just are simply enrolled into the plan and have no idea of their health status. So that creates a major issue in trying to keep the healthy and manage the chronically ill. So where I think our direction to more specifically answer the question is going to be to start focusing in on wellness and other program initiatives that will allow us to really engage these employees and help them learn about the value that the district provides on a monthly basis in a way and format that they're comfortable with, because everybody learns in different ways. So we just want to make sure, like as Ann mentioned in that communications slide, that we're taking advantage of every single communications opportunity that our firm will be able to provide, as well as the supplemental efforts of the carriers that you guys will be reviewing in a finalist meeting to again, ask questions, understand better approach, et cetera. So I really believe if we are able to demonstrate a bit of an investment, pull some of these, pull the risk off the plan that doesn't deserve to be there legitimately, you could use that dollar offset to help fund some of these programs that will, again, in turn have its own ROI based upon the actions and education that we're able to provide to members. Hopefully that helped.
You guys are working with the city of Cortez, right?
Yes, I don't personally, but we do have them as a client.
Because what my final goal in this whole situation is for us to be as rich as the city's plan is, because I know it is. I've been involved with it. and to be able to offer the same kind of benefits to our employees that the city offers to their employees. And then we will start keeping our employees. And there will be a battle for teachers, good teachers and good staff members to come to Cortez if we can offer that kind of benefit to our employees, because the city offers a rich, nice plan.
So do you know offhand what it costs to bring a family into their plan then?
Up until, let's see. My husband was employed for the city for 37 years. Up until 6 years ago, we paid this much money for a family plan for medical and dental insurance. Now and up until, for a majority of that time, we had $100 deductible. The city now, I think, pays a very minimal amount for their family to be on. I think when my husband left the city and he had me on his plan, we were paying around $40 every other week, $90 a month for, and that didn't matter if we had myself and the 3 kids. And their deductible is still very low. I think their deductible is right around $1,500. So yeah, it's a nice plan. But they've been self-insured they were self-insured the entire time we were on it.
Doesn't it, the more money you have in there, the more savings you have? I mean, I don't know how it's working. I'm learning as we go.
So I think that it can be difficult to compare yourself with the city of Cortez. There's a lot of different factors that come into play. Size, and like I said, that's not personally my account, so I don't work on it, although I do consult with them. Like I consulted with them about Summit as their TPA, who was quoted on your group and is looking pretty aggressive, so we're probably going to bring them in. But I wanted to confirm that they were a good fit with the city before I brought them in to speak to the district. So I don't want to bring in that apple. So it can be difficult because it's a lot to do with the size, the number of enrollees, and how the claims history, if they've run well, if they've been able to kind of manage claims over time, because that can be a huge variable for them. If they're having a lot
We've
of
had some big claims.
And so has the city though. I mean, through those years, they had some big claims. They had, at one point in time, they had 6 people on lasers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So and the school district employs more people than the city does.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We're the biggest employee in the county.
So what I would offer as well, members of the board, and ultimately this comes down to budget.
Absolutely.
So if we're talking about enriching, an HRA or an HSA contribution, that's obviously a spend. If we are talking about improving benefit levels, definitely a spend, right? So ultimately that comes down to how well you can manage your claims, as Ann mentioned. So, if that is an opportunity for us to further enrich, the proactive approach of managing members' needs and improving their experiences and outcomes, then that's obviously going to take an investment. And, I think that's something certainly that the board will need to consider as they adjust the contribution strategy. As Ann mentioned, our analytics team will provide you with a model so that the district can make a decision on if and where it wants to adjust that spend. It's ultimately going to come down to budget, and unfortunately it just takes usually more money to improve things than less. And so as we continue to go through each contract that the district has and improve it, ultimately overall there will be significant savings. However, it's just again, you only have so much money at the end of the day. The board will have to make decisions on where to, make improvements annually. And, obviously we would advocate certainly to improve the situation of the employees so that they could benefit from the value that you provide on a monthly basis.
Yeah, I mean, I understand this isn't going to happen overnight. That's a long-term goal for me, is to be able to say that we can offer that kind of insurance to our employees. I know it's not going to happen this year. It could be 5, 6 years, 10 years down the road. But, yeah.
Take care of your employees and attract your them. I think that's a great goal. And that's something that we can keep working on year over year to get there.
And I think by hiring you guys, we've made that first step. I truly believe that.
Thank you. I'm very happy, John and I are both very happy that she selected us to be your broker and that we're able to come in and help you guys out. It's our pleasure to work with.
Thank you so much, Anne.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
But we will be seeing you in the near future.
Yes.
We'll be addressing the staff. Okay.
Yep, you'll see the end of the week after next.
Okay.
And then the week after that next. So I'll be here quite a bit over the next
Okay.
month.
All right.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty. Okay, let's move along to board requests and reports.
I'll jump in on one
Yeah.
that I didn't put in my report. August 8th, we have the back to school convocation thing happening at the high school. Starts at 7:45 with breakfast provided by one of the churches, I believe. And then at 8:30, I will start. I've got a short program in development, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. I would like to have as many of the board members show up as I could. I'll introduce you guys. Part of my conversation with the staff is how proud I am of my board. So if you have time and you can do that, that'd be great. The day will go on. We're putting together a calendar for the 4 days. So I anticipate the Monday morning, the 8th, will last probably until about 10 o'clock. But you're invited. And Deb will have to notice it as a meeting so that we comply with the Open Meetings Act. You'll all be there.
And did the rest of the board members get told about the contribution they need to make for that too?
Well, we do need to talk about that. We had discussed that at one time about all the board members, and I will jump in if you want to do this. All the board members putting up maybe $100 or so, and we will get gift cards. And Cindy's looking at me like, oh my God, here we go again. Do a drawing of some kind, and we can do that. If you'd like to do that, let me know. I'm in, and whatever gift cards we can pull
We
up.
have
that'd be
a
great.
work session before then, correct?
We do. That'll be good. Thank you.
I'd like to have something on the next agenda or something too, to start discussion on Manal and what we're gonna go here. Deal with it.
Next move. Terminal.
Say that again.
Where we're gonna go with Manal now, what are we gonna,
That's one of
I don't wanna-
the discussions we need to have. is-
Yeah, that you would like to add that to the work
we'll
session.
start that right away.
Did you hear it, Jeanette?
Yeah, it's the second time I did.
I was in her way the first time, so.
She had that puzzled look on her face, and I didn't know if she
Yeah.
was thinking or if she was trying to figure out what we were saying.
I didn't do it here. So one of the discussions is, do we sell it? What do we do with it? I was gonna stop by the Calkins building and see, those guys have done a renovation for apartments.
I think they need to take the board through there.
I absolutely agree.
I remember what it looked like before, and then I know what the floor plans were to have it redone, and I'd like to see if they even began to resemble.
Yeah, I would too. I'll see what I can do about getting over there and seeing who's in charge. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
And just a reminder, I will be gone next week. I'm gonna do a vacation week next week. Not a sick week, vacation.
You've got 140 days.
Yeah, we'll discuss that here in a minute.
Okay. Anything else? Alrighty, okay, I'm moving on to section 5, citizens address the board.
One time now.
Those. Okay. Okay, MD McAfee. Yeah, oh, if you want to give that to Deb. Yep. Oh, sorry.
Have you got that going before she gets.
Well, I usually talk to the board whenever I come, and I have a couple of things that I want to say. Thanks for having the printed agenda, since I couldn't figure out in the new way how to print an agenda for myself. So it's nice to have a printed agenda. And then, let's see. Earlier today, you talked about not having the work session broadcast. And that gives me a bit of a heartache and heartburn, because I think that goes to questions of transparency, possible questions of transparency, questions of possible transparency. So I think anytime you're meeting together in this room, that needs to be broadcast like you do this meeting. I really do think that's really important, particularly as some policies and things like that are coming down the road. I think it would be really to your benefit and to your smarts to not using it, even though I know you guys over there in the corner work awful hard. So thank you for the work you do back there. But I do think it's important to do that. And then the other thing, so this is just MB, but when I talk, I like some reaction. And I know you're not supposed to engage with the public. And I know that, and I watch that, and I can see what can happen, and I do understand that. However, it's sort of a complete mystery to me. What happens to citizen comments? How do you respond to citizen comments that are made generally for not just you, but for the people listening? So how do you respond to comments that citizens make if you can't respond one-on-one? And I don't really expect a conversation tonight with any of you based on anything I've had to say. But it does seem very useless to me, on one hand, to come up here and talk to you folks about things that I might be personally concerned about, and having no clue what you've thought about it or what you've done with it or what becomes of it. So I don't expect any answer tonight, because there's probably some policy JQRF2X that I'm not even aware of. But I do think it's something we need to stop and give pause about, even if it means that you call me later to say you heard me and XYZ or whatever, and you're not speaking to the whole board, but this is what you think, or something. But for citizens to come up repeatedly and say things to you, and for me, I have no clue. Did you listen? Did you not listen? Did you care? Did you not care? I don't know. So those are my two things: beware of transparency and let folks know how comments go over, for instance. Thank you.
Great,
Thanks.
thank you. Okay, Carl Van Sickle, did I say that right?
You said it absolutely right.
Okay, perfect.
Am I allowed to give out handout?
Mhm.
No, there's multiple pages. There's a stack.
Thank you. I'll give you mine. We can make a copy.
I'm sorry, I just made one.
It's okay. We'll make a copy at the end.
Okay, all right, thank you. Well, good evening, board and superintendent and guests. My name is Carl Van Sickle. I'm a brand new teacher for you guys. I'm going to be teaching 6th grade science in the middle school. Thank you for hiring me, or I think you will in the next action item. Officially, I think that's what I officially did, if I read the agenda correctly. Thank you for hiring me. I really appreciate it. I scouted around Western Colorado for the last 3 or 4 years. I've been living around Salt Lake City, and I chose Cortez. I've lived in Cortez for 1 month. I've read everybody's bios on the website today, and I noticed some of you have lived in Cortez your entire lives. And I actually envy that quite a bit. But yeah, I've lived here for 1 month now. And I'm really enjoying it. I want to talk just briefly about my job history. I won't go over the whole thing. That's not my whole resume or anything, but this will be my 24th continuous year of teaching this year. I was hired by the middle school where I did my student teaching, where back in 1999, that was kind of a feather in the teacher's cap. Now they go pull them right out of college and put them into classrooms. But and then also my rookie year, I was the science department chair. The next year, I moved to Jackson Hole, Wyoming with my wife or my then wife, and I got hired at school for emotionally disturbed boys, where I worked there for 3 years. Very rewarding. After that, I worked at the Teton Science School. I had somebody from the board of directors call me and ask me to apply. And so I worked for them for 5 years. You can kind of see just a couple of the things that I did there. I moved to the Salt Lake area. I got divorced and couldn't afford to live in Jackson Hole on a teacher salary. I moved to Utah, the Salt Lake area, and I worked at a charter school. You can see what I did for them there. And then I worked for the Salt Lake School District for just a couple of years. They eliminated the whole grade level that I was at. So I worked in the Davis School District, which is the county just north of Salt Lake City. And now I'm here. And so I want to just mention really fast just a couple of things about teaching and about me in particular. I think there's 2 reasons why teachers leave the teaching field, why it's so hard. Number 1 is the time commitment, and number 2 is the emotional commitment. Teaching takes me I can't do my job less than 50 hours per week, traditionally. And during the pandemic, I was working for like 60 hours per week. There's been times I've gone to work every single Sunday for the whole school year. I worked 167 hours of Sundays at work, grade papers at home after that too. All of that is to say, I love teaching. I think I'm really good at it. I think there's an art to science or to teaching. I think there's a science to teaching, and I think I'm really good at both of them. I'm lucky I discovered at a young age I could teach myself stuff. I started teaching myself astronomy in the 5th grade, entomology in the 6th grade, chemistry in the 7th grade. I love to teach myself. I wouldn't say I'm totally an autodidact, but I'm fairly close. I'm an excellent learner. However, I'm a terrible student. I don't like being a student. I don't like sitting in classrooms. And so one thing that I didn't put in that I was going to was my work agreement. I was going to give it to you. I'm going to go ahead and say it out loud. Step 10, $42,000 a year. And so I think that's a salary that's just going to allow me to pay my rent, which is $1,000 a month. I was able to find an apartment just north of town right here, 1-bedroom apartment, $1,000 a month. I think that a salary of $42,000 a year, which is about a $12,000 pay cut for what I was making in Davis School District. I think that's going to just pay my gas, rent, and groceries. I'm going to have to ration healthcare. I'll never be able to afford another car. I just saw where in the news where a new car, cars are now $700 a month on average. So I don't have a lot of I don't have any grad hours. I've taken some, but there's been times I couldn't afford to pay the tuition. I just couldn't afford it. So in front of you now is a 24-year committed teacher who loves 6th grade. I love to be with those kids. Nothing thrills me more. I get goosebumps. I'm thinking about being in the classroom the day after Labor Day, or actually before that, I guess I get goosebumps. If you guys could find a way to pay me more, I would love to teach here for another 10 years. I'm 61. I would love to teach for another 10 years. And then I would like to be that beloved substitute that comes in and teaches for about 3 or 4 more years. And then about 75, I can kind of wrap it up and stuff like that. I can't do it on 42,000. I'm going to try. I'll stick with you guys for the whole year. I'll be here until June, I promise. But as we figure out a way to pay me more, I would love to make Montezuma. I've committed to living here. I moved myself here. I figure I'd loaded up, moved about a ton of stuff, loaded and unloaded about a ton of stuff. So I'm committed to Cortez. I really like this place. I'm really enjoying myself here. I think it's a wonderful community. I can't wait to become more of a part of it. But like I said, at $42,000 a year, it's just going to be too hard. So thank you for what you guys do. Thank you for your time and your commitment to the children of Montezuma County and Cortez and the state of Colorado. Thanks to the HR folks. They were super nice and super helpful, super patient with getting me my paperwork and answering my questions and stuff like that. Thank you for your service. And it's been a really interesting meeting. I've really enjoyed it. I think I went over 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So a side note, my elementary principal's name was Mrs. Benson.
You're kidding.
Oh, I'm not. And if she's ever told you stories about me, don't believe them.
It's a really unusual last name, really.
Does anybody feel like we need to break before we move on?
I do.
I'd love it.
A 5-minute break?
Good.
Okay, we will take a recess for 5 minutes, begin again at 8:50. reconvene the meeting at 8:24. So we will be moving on to item 6, discussion items. Deborah, if you had something that you needed to.
We're just required to announce yearly where we'll be posting things that pertain to the board. So I'll just read this. Montezuma-Cortez RE1 Board of Education announces yearly our meeting calendar and the areas where the agendas will be posted. Online agendas can be found at the district website at www.cortez.k12.co.us under Board of Education, tab Board Docs. Printed copies of the agendas will be posted in the foyer area of the district office at 400 North Elm Street, Cortez, Colorado. Monthly board meetings may be viewed on the district YouTube channel labeled Montezuma-Cortez School District RE1. Work sessions audio will only be recorded, but there will be no visual broadcast. When possible or appropriate, the district will use their Facebook as a means to promote events and information. And our calendar for meetings is up on our website at this time. And I'll just let you know, we ordered a new display case for the front foyer so that these items can be placed there. Right now, we've got things stuck up on the wall with duct tape, so we're gonna improve that look.
Okay. Any other discussion about that or questions? Okay, so moving on to our action items. Action item A, the personnel consent calendar. Mr. Burrows?
Madam President, I recommend that we approve the consent calendar as provided by Cynthia Eldridge.
I second
You have to make a motion.
Oh, I have to
I just
make a
make a
motion.
recommendation.
it. Okay. I make a motion that we accept it, right?
Mhm.
The Montezuma-Cortez District 1 consent calendar.
I second it.
Okay. Deb, whenever you're ready.
Discussion.
Oh, just one discussion, but I don't know how much we discuss on this. Yeah.
Is there discussion?
Question?
Sorry,
Okay.
said that.
Okay, so
Mr. Fraser, are you guys
Hi.
ready?
What's that?
Are you guys ready to cast your votes?
I'm ready. I don't see it here though. Oh, it's on the wrong page.
Come on.
Go back. Oh, are we supposed to do it now?
Yep. Sorry, this is for the learning.
Did mine come in?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did. I moved it
Oh, you did already?
There we go. We-
Second.
We discussed during the break that we probably should announce this for the audio recording. So the motion passes unanimously.
thank you, Deborah. All right. Action item B, Montezuma-Cortez School District RE1 handbooks. This was tabled in June.
Madam President, I asked Tom Graves to come back and to listen in to any, I'm sorry, I got you out of work.
You're fine, you got me off the weed and air conditioning.
Good. So any comments you may have about the handbook, please share with Mr. Graves and we will get that finalized and with your comments. And I would like to move forward with putting it in kids' hands. And I would like to add that in discussions with Mr. Graves, we have come to our own personal consensus that as a principal, he needs to share the handbook with all the students at the high school, which he will do through classes and have the conversation. Any comments? Please share.
Do we need to make the motion first?
Yes.
Your motion?
I have a lot of discussions. but-
Yes.
So I make a motion that we accept the policies as presented.
Second.
Okay, discussion.
There you go.
So,
Let me make one comment that might make you know, typically what I try to follow is kind of a collaborative facilitator approach. So something like a student handbook is something that you need to do. Something that we need to come with a recommendation to you from the entire staff. 2 weeks, 10 days, get ready for school, that's impossible. However, handbook, it's more complicated in my dissertation. However, it'll make do, and I will put a couple caveats on there. For example, the things that I'm gonna do differently at the high school, that we're not gonna have in there because it's impossible. Will be any other action deemed necessary by the principal or designee. I will do as a yearly process, get information up and taking comments from you. Changed. That might make it. You gotta deal with reality at the same time.
Okay,
Okay,
so
what do you,
let's start with elementary. I think that all 3 elementary schools should have the same policy. So that if a student moves into the other school district, they're not confused on what it is.
Okay.
Okay. Middle school, I really like the way Drew did that. He backed up every one of his policies with our policy. I really like that. High school, I have some issues.
Okay.
One is, does ESS get the same diploma as other students?
I'm sorry, say that again.
ESS, do they sped, do they get the same diploma?
Depends. You have 3 different diplomas, a high grade diploma, regular standard diploma.
Okay. So I really,
They can qualify-
that
you can
needs to be
qualify for
kept.
any of those.
Yeah. You mentioned, well, not you, but it was mentioned that they had NHS National Honor Society in there, but it did not say how a student got into it. I had 2 granddaughters go through there that was not in National Honor Society. And I asked them why, because their grades were there, and they said, how do you do it? So I'm just throwing these things out.
I'm taking notes.
Well, and then Power School, fantastic, if it's used. And I have had a lot of parents complain because Power School is not used by teachers. They, you know, if I would use my daughter for an example. She checked Power School every hour. I would love to put Power School on a one-time check a day. But so she sent a note to her kids. Well, if they were in a class where the teacher was not programming in the correct attendance or assignments, putting in graded assignments, then she was all over their case, reading their whole day. So, you know, teachers need to be aware that parents are constantly on Power School and they're checking on their kids. And if a parent writes to a teacher about why is my child doing this, or can I have a conference, they need to respond. So
I can tell you this, I'm very familiar with Power School. It's an excellent tool. If you have it, but if it's not utilized, then it's going to be squandered. So it will be utilized. If it's not, all parent has to do is communicate with you.
I've done this. So then in there, it said that they have lunch detention. I do not believe that you should take lunch away from the child. And you've already addressed it. You have before school, after school. If you take time away from a child, they're going to try harder to be in school. Lunch, we might show up, we might not. And my friends will bring me lunch and I'll visit with them. Now, that's not lunch detention. So
I'm not paying attention.
need to enforce hall passes. The school sometimes looks like Grand Central Station during class time. So, you know, if you see a student in the hall, then they better have a hall pass.
Well, let me say this for the board's name. Just like I said, it was real big on targets, attendance, real big on instructions.
Okay.
In my mind, again, I'm gonna be sarcastic in education all the time. When you have the chance to go to the restroom before school, after school, between 7 and 8 classes and during lunch, there's no human being dealing with medical issues that needs more than that, or even half that. So that's one example. Number two, being sarcastic again. In my mind, there's only 2 reasons to be out of instructions. Can't breathe. So here's why I say that sarcastically. It is very important that teachers teach well developed and that students are in their class. You know, they can see the counselor before school, after school, during lunch. Obviously, it's an emergency, but they don't.
Or they
need to
can,
go during
or they
lunch.
can make an appointment with the counselor.
Well, and same thing with health and all those other issues. So that will be rest assured. All our teachers will have 2 passes, be it very few kids in the hallway because there's no reason to be in the hallway unless it's an emergency. You all know there's very few emergencies. Period. I think you'll feel real good. And I would invite the board, after we get school going, or even on the first day, we're going to school the first day. We're going to go to school, the students will have homework, we're going to have instruction. It's going to be organized, kids are going to be in class. It's going to be a change in culture, but at the same time, I think you'll be well pleased. And I invite you to come by the school anytime and enjoy the results.
Now I can't read some of my writing because I must have been.
Did you read this teacher?
Can you read
I'm gonna need to-
that? The other thing is parking. Kids like to, the girls especially like to write their name and this is my parking spot and by golly, not parking. You know what? If we're going to do that, then they pay for that spot. Otherwise, first come, first serve. You don't get your sidewalk paid and write your name on it, not that anybody else park in it. Because sometimes, and I will be honest, because sometimes I have done that and I couldn't find a parking spot, I put in there and my car was not ready.
All I can tell you is we got to work in our parking spaces for those cars.
So just saying, and I'm not above charging for parking spaces, so. Anyway, I think that's covered most of it.
You all got my cell phone number, you'll have it, text me, call me anytime you have a question or concern. I'll tell you what.
Oh, there was one other thing. In there, it said that if you were a 3-year student, you could not be classified in the top 20 of the graduating class. Why?
I don't know, I've been here.
I mean, you should be, and no, I'm just,
I know what you're saying.
yeah, I can say sarcastic.
Since you also cannot be the valedictorian of the silver.
Yeah, and but
That's
the
an
thing
early
is,
graduation.
if you make your grades and if you're doing it in 3 years, why are you punishing a child for being a high achiever or a gifted one? Just, you know, I'm just saying,
The board can direct me in any way, shape.
so.
Principal Nelson is on the Zoom if you have questions for her too.
Oh, perfect.
No, I
Hi,
just-
Katie.
Hi, Katie, how are you? She's probably,
Oh, okay.
okay, that's my issues. Now then somebody else has a turn.
Lane, do you have anything? Nope.
I had down discipline and attendance was 2 of our major areas, but you pretty well addressed all that, I think so.
You folks will be amazed.
So,
I'm ready.
we talked
Tony,
about
do you have anything?
Teacher planning and it's,
I just want to make sure our policies are followed fairly well by all teachers. I'm sure you
yeah.
are got on that one. But
Just to
you
let
know,
you know, because I'm sure you'll get the, the step job. Here's how I play it. So everybody's got, I think they're wonderful. Guess what? Kids can use them before school, after school, during lunch, between classes, but not during class without permission. If they do, I don't play games. I hold the phone so the parent can pick it up.
That's what that
Simple as that.
that's pretty much what the policy says as well, and I just want to make sure that's huge.
Every time.
And
But I guess some of the kids were bullying teachers last year with their cell phones.
Say it again, I didn't mention.
They were bullying teachers with it.
Bullying teachers.
I'm sure it's like a quick photo that is just awkward, embarrassing, things like that.
And posted
Hard to
all
stop.
over school.
Bottom line, again, super simple policy on cell phones. It follows right along with what you guys have already approved. No cell phones in class without permission, complaint, or change. And I'm just gonna keep it to this. So
I think that needs to be followed from elementary all the way through, like the same policy.
I agree.
Things, but you make it complicated with your dog chasing tail.
Yeah, so, yeah, it needs to be.
Consistent
It has to be across the board with all the buildings.
Yeah,
I'm not I don't necessarily oppose anything with the high school policy. It is a little bit less restrictive, I think, than the middle school. The middle school says no cell phone on the school at all. This one, it is like how you said, you can have it in, during
It
lunch.
needs to be put away, yeah.
No, not in the high school schools. You can have it during lunchtime and half the period. Middle school, it's gone. You know what I mean? And so I'm not necessarily opposed to having it the way this is, but just keep in mind there are two different policies or way we're doing it. Handbooks. And then the other thing I think that the middle school has, I guess this is just me, but I think the high school dress code allows for like crop tops. And, the middle school is very clear about what, I think it adds a little more to it as far as, you're not gonna be showing your belly and navel area or back or anything like that. And I think that's a little more appropriate too. So high school doesn't say anything about that.
I have that too. The dress code the same for middle school and high school. So it's
Favor of middle
consistent, and they don't have that from 8th grade to freshman and claim that, well, I didn't know because I've been doing it this way for the last 3 years.
I think anywhere you can be consistent. It's good for parents, good for kids. And that's our job is to train from kids.
Yeah,
I had the dress code thing too. I highlighted some of those, but I'd like to see those two be consistent, the middle school and the high school. Honestly, and I know I would, they'll shoot me, but I'm all for common dress from kindergarten through 12th grade. But I know that's not gonna happen around here, but I'm gonna say it anyway.
Did you want us to put on uniforms too?
Well, that's what common dress is. That's what common dress is, and
We approached that one time and
I can guarantee you, parents will spend less money on school clothes if we went to common dress.
that's right.
Absolutely. But yeah, I don't.
Good luck.
Yeah. There is the qualification of National Honor Society in here, Sherry.
Well, I know there is, but how do you have to go to the teacher and?
Well, it says.
Or does your counselor look at your grades and say, will you qualify for it?
No, the sponsor of National
Because I
Honor
was
Society
always-
does
I
that.
was always, when my son was in the National Honor Society, he was invited.
Yeah, you get an invitation and then.
So do they pick and choose who they invite?
Well,
Teachers had to, he
yeah.
had to take it around to teachers, recommend him and do all that. But I've had a lot of kids come and say, well, I didn't even know what it was.
My understanding, tell me, I think they're still doing it this way. If they qualify for that first by the cumulative, then they get those next steps. And it's the kids' responsibility to get that information and those references from their
So
teachers.
the kids need to know this. So maybe somebody needs to tell these kids,
Yeah.
this is what you need to do.
And
I don't know the
We just
process.
at back to school line stuff, they had a whole breakout session just for NHS,
right.
So,
parents and kids. So I don't know.
so there's.
The other one is, I think that we also need to put in, because they put in the standards for all the other honors graduation stuff. They don't have the qualifications for academic awards in there.
No.
And those are, I know that we always got those totally confused, and there was a lot of hurt people over that, and for because those are honors that those kids receive at the end of the year.
They are. And they work for you.
Right. And so the academic awards needs to be in there, and their that GPA breakdown, but because it's different every year as to what their GPA has to be. And then also the all-state academic awards for CHASA. That needs to go in there too. I know we've put it in the program that they hand out at awards night, but I think it needs to be in the handbook too. So
Kind of gives kids something to work for.
what's that?
Gives kids something to work for.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
Stacy, is honor roll and honorable mention in there?
Yes, it
Yes,
is.
yes.
It is. So that's why I was saying that I think those things need to be in there. The cell phone thing, we touched on that. I think it needs to be the same. My other really big one is the information in the counseling office. This handbook gives parents and kids the rules, what we expect from them. And it does a little bit give what they should expect from the school. But I think in this counseling office one, I truly, and I get this from a lot of parents, from extracurricular people, all of those
I agree
things.
with you. I know where you're going.
Our kids need a guarantee that they are going to meet with their counselors on a biannually basis, on a quarterly basis, whatever we feel is necessary by the administration. But those kids, every student should be seen by their counselor at least twice a year.
I agree. And then that way we won't have the end of the school year saying, oh, you're 2 credits shy.
Well, and
they're meeting with counselors. They are.
And our freshman kids, they will know in their first semester, hey, I gotta pick it up, you know? Or I'm not gonna be able to graduate on time. I strongly believe that if we're gonna tell them what we expect from them, they deserve to know what they should expect from us.
Right.
And everything else we touched on.
We've actually had that very discussion. Agreed.
And yeah, I mean, our enrollment's down. We still got 3 counselors. I realize those counselors are busy. I know that. And I know, that homeroom is used for some of that kind of stuff, but they need that one-on-one with their counselor. That's all I have.
Jeanette, do you have anything besides what's already been discussed?
No.
No.
My big thing was the cell phones.
Okay. I had a couple, besides the obvious where some things will be changed, like some names and some cover letters or, certain things, times, start times, things like that, that will probably certainly just be addressed by each administrator. I know for sure, like page 14 in the middle school, because we've got the policies as far as the student-led clubs and whatnot. I think there may or may not be some updates on that. There was one that kind of, I was just looking, it's this little small thing. It says student distribution of non-curricular materials. Students who wish to distribute more than 10 items or copies of non-curricular materials on school property or at a school activity must notify and receive approval from the principal a minimum of 1 day in advance. So a student could deliver 9 copies of something that we don't know what's going on out there, like what exactly is it?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know where that number 10 came from. Like, why was that the specific number and why, so I wasn't even sure that, because it's got a policy, JICECR in there that might be one that we want to look at when we're
Absolutely.
reviewing the policies, because I'm thinking, well, I'm sure most of the times it probably might be harmless, but there must have been something done at some time for this to be put in here.
Yeah.
Of some kind of something that.
And I think
wasn't-
there's something from Kathy in there, too.
Yeah, so that was one of them that just kind of struck me as kind of odd.
MB's laughing because I can tell her, I've told her some of the horror stories around distribution of materials and things like that, where it goes all the way to the Supreme Court. So that one is one that I really want to look at and really pay attention to limiting.
Yeah.
Back when I was first on the board, we were junior high.
Right.
And the Gideons would come and distribute a Bible to the 8th grade students. And that was my second year on the school board. They came and asked permission to do that, and we had to deny it because we had also had somebody come and ask to distribute a Wickham Bible. And if we allowed the Gideons to distribute a Bible, we had to allow them, so we had to deny it. And I still catch flack from you guys no longer let our kids get Bibles, but that was the whole thing behind it. And so this goes right in context with some of that.
Sherry, was that
It's JICEC-R. And I will also agree that like the middle school has 33 pages, the high school has 43 pages
Yeah.
of, wow.
Yeah.
It's a lot to read. I mean, if it's a lot for us, I mean, we're used to reading a lot. I mean, how many parents actually read that thing? And like you say, you just need to have a meeting with the kids and go over it and you assign that back page so they can be held accountable. But I think maybe some of this can be maybe condensed a little bit as far as like maybe a district policy on a lot of these things, and then each school would maybe have a little bit of it, like their diplomas in the high school, certain classes that they provide, different things, maybe more of a district policy, and then a smaller version for where most everything's going to be the same and consistent in each school, and then where the schools, if they are going to have little tweaks here and there between elementary and middle school and high school. That was just not on my end.
Yeah, they need to be consistent.
Well, with that being said, do we just expect to like maybe have a few changes come to us as they change things, or how do we want to approach the changes that are being made, like that you may make?
I guess my recommendation at this point, because of the speed at which schools come, is to make the temporary changes made. Keep it about the same, take the advice that you're giving us, the concerns that you have. I'll make recommendations and work with the superintendent with that change. We can update it on the website at any time.
So as long as we're approving that basically, we're just approving that you have a handbook and then you just update it as you see fit.
Right, based on the list that I made.
Okay, that's perfect. Okay.
So does our motion stand the way we made it?
So you've got a motion and a second?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
All right. Deborah,
Cast your votes, please.
let me get to that spot.
It's on there?
It's not on here.
I'm sorry to say, I don't have it yet.
Oh, sorry, there you go.
There it is.
Okay.
I don't have it.
Cody's ready. Cody's ready.
Got it.
Oh, you got it? Okay.
Oh, there.
I went.
There we go. Okay.
And it's an unanimous vote, motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, action item, Mr. Burrows's 140 workday schedule contract.
So, as you all know, I'm a para-retiring. So when you come back to work, you can get a 110 contract by just filling out a form and sending it in, which I did because I thought I was just working to July. Well, if I'm going to stay, then you've got to have a 140 contract. So I contacted Pierre, and that's who told me that the board has to request the 140 contract. Well, today I talked to Stephanie, and Stephanie says, oh, no, I already did that, and it's already requested. And I said, do you have an authorization to it? She said, yes. So I think just as, and I'm not going to make a recommendation on this, but I think as a formality that you go ahead and, again, I won't make the recommendation, I shouldn't, but it's asking the board to approve or request a 140 contract, and this goes to Vera.
Motion?
I make a motion that we accept this.
I'll second.
Any questions, concerns, comments? All right, Deborah.
Cast your vote, please.
I have to wait for it to come. Oh, there she be.
There's just a hair of the
Just a little bit of a delay. That's fine.
Little delay.
the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah, now you owe us.
Okay, action item D, redistricting contract, visions and planning consultants for $16,254.25.
Madam President, I recommend the approval of the redistricting contract with Visions and Planning. These people do the plotting of all the kids, and they have 3 scenarios going right now. One of them has the schools within about 40 kids of each other. And I think that they've done enough to, well, they're close to finishing, but I think we should go ahead and approve this contract.
I make a motion that it be approved, the visions contract. Is that what it is?
Yep.
Yeah.
Visions and planning. Give a second.
Second.
Ed, I heard Ed first.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions, comments?
I guess my only question is my understanding is all the students in Toyac have always been allowed to make their choice.
Well,
Of
that's
the
a
elementary
really good
level?
question. That's what I thought too.
Oh,
And so I went to education. I said, can you guys give me a list of who wants to go where? And then with this geocoding, we actually figured out there was only 40 Toyac students that went to Manaa. And then there were like 70 at one of the other schools and 35 at the other. So the recommendation is to take those 40, which we've got to figure out what the names are and contact them, and move all 40 to Mesa.
so those kids don't have a choice.
No, those kids
Okay.
don't have a choice.
Okay.
Is this something that needs to be done periodically? Is it like good to do, or
You know what, Tony, this has never been done.
I figured it's never been done.
And just anecdotally, I have 12 elementary schools in Roswell, in the town itself, which is 9 miles long and about 6 miles wide. So those 12 schools had attendance areas that were shaped to and qualified to the size of the school. So I had one school that was kind of the, magnet school, if you will. And so when it was geocoded, we found kids from all over the city who were going to that school. So if you want to maintain your school area boundaries, you need to do this. But now we're down to just basically 2 elementary schools. What she did say that she's finding, we have kids from out of state, which we knew that. And we've got kids from out of the district, which we knew some of that. And she's all about make the attendance areas and hold to the attendance areas. That's what we allowed to. I've never seen it in Colorado. PSFA, the Public School Facility Authority, really drove that whole program, and we used the same lady. She did all of them in Mexico. There's some close.
I didn't think we were allowing kids from out of state to be in our district. If they transferred in, this was happening a few years ago. They had to prove to us residency in the state of Colorado.
Right.
Because we don't get the money for them if they're out of state.
That's what we're fighting.
Yeah, and so with their,
I can tell you that.
they had to bring us
Utility bill or something.
utility bill, the driver's license that showed that they were, we had some pretty upset people.
When I was in the middle school, that's what I required, and Bill came over one time and said, don't do that anymore, because we can actually, if they have anything that says Colorado, we can turn them in on 40-day counts, October 1 count.
Yeah,
So I had the same discussion with the governor of New Mexico, because down at the Mexican border, that school district drives 5 or 6 school buses up and loads up kids at the border and brings them back to school, didn't it? And so she goes, what do you think of that? And I said, as long as you'll pay the SEG in New Mexico. As long as you pay the SEG, I'm good with that. We're a business.
In Central, what we had to do is we had to actually do an intergovernmental agreement between the states. So if you had kids from Arizona that wanted to go to school in New Mexico and vice versa, each entity had to agree and say, you're gonna pay me my equivalent to your PPR, I'm gonna pay you equivalent to mine, and it's not always the same. But you had to, there had to be an understanding that you recognize kids crossing state lines.
So do we want to accept those kids? Should we accept?
Well, I think we're finding something out that we didn't know. So the answer is we need to look at that.
We're finding out that kids don't actually live here, but maybe they have a PO box of a relative that lives here.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what.
Yeah.
And
We did some research one time when Michael Canzona was here, and we found that there were several families living in one house.
Mhm.
And they were actually from Montezuma.
Yeah. That's,
They just found an address and used it.
she's finding some of those. So when we can get the report, we'll look at that.
Okay. Okay. All righty. Deborah, I think we're ready.
Cast your votes.
I might get to where I like this.
And the votes in, it's unanimous, it passes.
Thank you, Deborah.
President Noyes?
Yeah.
When we came back from the break, we skipped over the consent calendar and didn't vote on it.
We didn't vote on it?
Does anyone remember voting? Because I don't think we did. Yeah, I think
I haven't-
straight to handbooks.
I have it marked off, but
Thought we did.
because Jeanette motioned and Sherry
Yeah.
seconded, but
But we didn't vote.
we didn't vote. Are you missing it? Can we?
Yeah, I've got the votes right here on it. I've got.
We
the
must
votes
have
right.
done it and I just forgot,
We did.
because we
Okay.
have a vote on.
Oh,
Yeah, I've got it, all the votes on mine.
Okay,
I show all the votes here.
that's just me then, ignore me.
We're good.
Yeah, everybody said
Okay.
yes.
Okay. But I have done that in the past, so yeah, just call me out. Okay, action item E, contract with Frontier Education for substitute management software. Upfront cost is $6,300 and yearly will be $12,336.98.
I recommend that we approve the contract with Frontline Education for substitute management software. And I will throw in, which was really funny, I had bought this in Roswell. And so I go, isn't there a finder's fee here or something? And they gave us 10% off rather than 7% off. So look at the money I saved. Don't spend it all in one spot.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve the contract with Frontline.
I'll second.
Okay, this is a recurring bill. Do we sign a contract for how many years or what's the deal?
Cynthia, we did get a proposal for a 4-year contract on that.
So for 4 years, we will pay, it's not gonna go up.
It is.
12,000.
It escalates 5% a year.
But we're getting a 10% discount the first year.
Well, yeah, and that's
So that
translating,
covers 2 years.
yeah. So would you like to amend the motion to a 4-year contract with it? How would you like to?
To that anyway.
Otherwise.
I didn't think we did it more
Yeah, otherwise we're stuck on one.
as a board.
We can't amend?
I don't think we can commit to anything for more than a year at a time as a board.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, you can.
Because we-
Up to 5 years. It's not recommended, but I just read the financial policy for you the other day. And it's 1 to 5 years, you have the authority to approve. But to your point, I never recommend a contract, but it's hard because they give you discounts for essentially going into a multi-year contract, so.
So here's how it
We
works.
just-
They take inflation rate. And if the inflation is over 5% and we do a 1 year, then we could pay more next year. Just guessing, it may be over 5%. but if it went down, we would still pay the 5%. So it's kind of,
It's 50/50.
Yeah.
I say let's just go ahead.
Well, because it's
and
the
do it.
contract, is the contract for 4 years? Because it just says approve the contract.
Yeah, we're just approving the contract.
No, it is for 4 years.
For 4 years.
Yeah, so.
it is, we
so
do have the proposal.
I mean, so this basically says we're approving the contract.
We have to amend. Ed, help?
Nope, so-
Nope. It's
No.
good to,
We're good?
yep, we're good.
Very good.
But so this will be saving us money in the end
Yes.
regardless, no matter
Yes,
what.
because
So
We're paying,
10% or not,
paying right now,
5% or not.
the person who's doing it now was 23,000.
Right.
And so. we're saying
And we're getting a
substantial
lot
amount of money.
more bang for our buck,
Yeah.
technically, right? Okay.
I don't think, I've met with a couple of board members. I think that's a good point to point out with the rest of the board is the system we're using right now with the live person, everybody knows what that is costing us $23,000 a year. So this is almost a little over $10,000 savings per year. Okay,
Okay.
now proceed on.
All right, any other questions? Deborah, whenever you're ready.
Cast your vote.
I hope I'm not the weakest link. All righty.
Hang on, we still have,
Oh,
there we go. It's an unanimous vote, the motion passes.
thank you. Action item F, capital reserve request for the Mesa roof, amount of $488,800.
Madam President, I recommend the approval of the capital reserve request for the Mesa roof at $488,800.
We need to have
You just Stacy have that? Yep.
I think we need to have a motion before we
Right.
discuss it.
I make a motion that we accept this capital reserve request.
Second. Now you read it.
Ready? No discussion, or read it first. Montezuma-Cortez School District RE1 2022-2023 capital reserve request to the school board. Dated 7/19/2022, funds available $488,800 coming out of account 430-117-00600020723 .62. Amount requested $488,800. Project Mesa roof identified by a needs assessment. Multiple bids provided. Business office confirmation funds are available. Whereas the administration has need of an additional $488,800 to purchase Mesa roof. Now therefore be it resolved that $488,800 is authorized for expenditures from the capital reserve fund.
I guess this is the table, are ours the only ones that say this whole
No.
thing about buying some more buses?
No, mine has two.
Mine says.
Well, there's 3 of them.
No,
No.
I'm on the roof one.
No, so.
Oh, sorry.
On the roof one, but mine's saying about buses.
Let me.
So-
Yeah, that-
I apologize for that. What happened. Stacy caught that earlier and I still didn't catch it, so she pointed it out to me here.
Okay.
Going into the new year, I had to change the template from 21 to 22. And for some reason in that template, it put a description and a rationale request that wasn't changeable, that I didn't even pay attention to. So I went back and I adjusted those documents for the record and for Stacy to read correctly. But essentially the project description and the rationale request should match.
Okay.
Mesa roof. So I apologize for that.
Good, very good.
Yeah,
We can replace the documents on paper docs too.
Here, yeah.
Okay, yep. Okay.
It also says the fire system.
You have the correct ones.
Oh.
I do.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
So we're transferring money into it to cover our cost. That's why it's 480.80.
Well, actually, in the budget that you guys approved for this year, I'd already had it in there. That's why it's actually now available for the amount requested.
That was my question. Thank you.
So. Company?
What's that?
Is that a local company?
Durango.
Yeah, Tino.
And we did the RFP in October.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think Deborah, whenever you're ready.
Cast your vote. Thank you. The vote is in and it's unanimous. It passes.
Okay. Action item G, capital reserve request for buses in the amount of $362,793.72.
Madam President, I recommend that we approve the capital reserve request in the amount of $362,793.72 for buses.
I'll make a motion to approve this.
Second. Montezuma-Cortez School District RE1 2022-2023 capital reserve request to the school board dated 7/19/2022. Funds available $362,793.72. Account number 430-117-004-600-0723. .62.00. Amount requested $362,793.72. Project description, transportation buses, identified by needs assessment. Rationale, multiple bids provided, but business office confirmation funds are available. Whereas the administration has need of an additional $362,793.72 to purchase 2 passenger buses and 1 sped bus. Now therefore be it resolved that $362,793.72 is authorized for expenditures from the capital reserve fund.
This is the same concept with amount that's available.
Correct.
Okay.
Same, yes.
Same.
These were in part of the capital reserve plan, so they were items.
And the number that she read, the account number is different than what we have on here.
Yes. The account number is correct, though, that's on our paper.
That is what Stacy wrote. Read.
Okay. Deborah, whenever you're ready.
Cast your votes. Thank you. The vote's in, it's unanimous, it passes.
Okay. Action item H, capital reserve request for trucks in the amount of $124,103.
Madam President, I recommend that we allocate $124,103 for capital reserve purchase of trucks.
Make a motion to accept the capital reserve for $124,103 for trucks.
Second.
Montezuma-Cortez School District RE1 2022-2023 capital reserve request to the school board dated 7/19/2022. Funds available $124,103. Account number 430-72000 27000732 ... Amount requested, $124,103. Project, fleet vehicle replacement, identified by a needs assessment. Multiple bids provided, business office confirmation funds are available. Whereas the administration has need of an additional $124,103 to purchase 2 trucks. Now therefore be it resolved that $124,103 is authorized for expenditures from the capital reserve fund.
All right, Deborah, you're ready.
Cast your votes. Thank you. The vote's in. It passes unanimously.
So in doing this, then we won't have the maintenance guys using the ag pickup then?
Do you have what?
The maintenance guys won't be using the ag pickup?
No,
Okay.
I hope not. I know they have been the last week or
So
so.
they have to. I've
I've
been
seen it too.
down the road.
Yeah.
So, do you want to add this to our next agenda for a work session?
Yeah, Deborah, if we can just add the appreciation
Staff.
dinner in December to our work session next month.
Thank you.
As well as the Manon, the next moves for Manon. Hey, does anybody else have anything to add before we adjourn the meeting? Well, don't, all righty. We'll adjourn this meeting at 9:16. Thank you for everybody that attended.
All right.